This is episode number 25 of the Riff Tacos podcast. My name is Paul Misko, and I am really excited for today's guest. His name is John Kempainen, the former lead guitarist for the Black Dahlia Murder, playing on all of their early material from 2002 through 2007. Just an absolute shredder. Unhallowed specifically was a very special record to me. It came out right after I graduated high school and was pretty much a staple in the soundtrack for that summer, and really introduced me to that style of metal. I had probably heard a little bit of At the Gates and In Flames before that, but this was the first record that was like Swedish death metal style, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, really connected with me and was something that I listened to all the time. Just instant classic and undeniably inspirational to bands to this day. Also, we just released a tribute vocal cover to Trevor that was done and put together with Sean and From a Second Story Window, the vocalist of my band, and Guy from the Red Chord. And John was a special guest on it, playing the solo that he wrote on that record. So I know it meant so much to Guy specifically, and has connected, you know, with a lot of fans reading all the comments out there. So that was really cool to be able to be a part of. So thanks to you guys for including me in that. And RIP to, in my opinion, the greatest to ever do it. But looking forward to getting to know John today and talking about the early days of the Black Dahlia Murder, what he's been up to since leaving the band, and what he's up to now. So let's get going. This is Riff Tacos with John Kempainen. All right, John, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, sir?
Absolutely. I'm doing just fine. One out of two kids is asleep. So shout out to my wife for holding down the fort so I can come and talk to you. And I'm ready to hang out.
Let's do it. I wanted to tell you something funny first. One, I was super stoked to be able to help out with that Trevor tribute cover that Guy and Sean put together. And before they asked you, I was helping them mix the vocals and edit the beginning of the video. And then I don't know if it was a Guy or Sean that was like, do you want to do the solo? And I was like, oh, I didn't expect to be asked that. And I was like, my first answer is yes, but in my head I was like, I don't play leads like that. I'm not a solo guy. I don't think I could learn it in time. So I was like, give me just a night to like try it out. And I got the tabs up. And I skipped to like, I knew what would be the hardest part. And I was like, no fucking way am I learning this in like 3 days. So thankfully they asked you, the rightfully so, the guy who wrote it and recorded it. But yeah, that was really awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool too. I definitely wasn't expecting it. It's been a really, really long time since I've, been involved in anything BDM related, but I was more than happy to lend a hand. And I didn't even have to really record the audio because it was already there. But I think I will still post the video that I sent you guys, because there's some raw crap. There's me playing in there.
Yeah.
And although I think it's a slight bit different from the album, it's pretty close. I mean, we're talking 20 years here.
Right. Did you have that like muscle memory still, or did you have to brush up on it at all?
So I actually started brushing up on BDM stuff earlier in 24, because I started giving guitar lessons. Mm-hmm. And when I advertised that I was giving guitar lessons, people just wanted me to teach them how to play BDM songs. Basically, right. Nobody wanted me to teach them anything else, and so I was like, okay, well, seems like that's a reason to learn how to. So I actually got on a Songster and pulled up a bunch of my old stuff, because I mean, it'd been at that point, over like a decade and a half since I had even tried to play any of that stuff.
Right. I think that's where I found it, on Songster.
Songster's great for the most part. What I'll say about Songster is that they'll have the notes will be right, but not necessarily the positioning. Like you'll hear the correct note. Like I hear a lot of stuff on Songster that's actually really, really correct, but I'll go to play it, and so when it was my own stuff, I knew for sure that it wasn't the right position, because I'm like, why is this so unnecessarily hard while I'm playing this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I played it like this. So, but yeah, it was definitely muscle memory after a bit, but I will say it took a good 2 months of drilling the hell out of this stuff poorly before I felt comfortable, doing it in front of people, I guess.
Yeah,
Those
There's
riffs
some real
are
rippers on those records.
Well, those riffs aren't really a joke. They're a full-time job. I mean, when I was playing with them, we practiced 5 days a week off tour. It was like it just and with the click too. And what that taught me is the importance of the click, especially in metal.
Right. Yeah, we never played to a click until recently, and that's just always what we did. And the records, and From a Second Story Window, before I joined the band, they didn't record to a click, so it was never necessary. We never had backing tracks live. But then now that we're older and like revisiting, Nick started using one when he's playing, and he's like, a little awkward at first. Then he's like, I love it. I wouldn't go back now, but we just can't use it for the old songs because they're all over the place.
Yeah, that's just sometimes the way it goes. Actually, Unhallowed was not recorded to a click. We kind of just went for it, and I remember some, that there being some hurdles because of that, because you're just kind of melding together something with no backbone, essentially. Like, you're the backbone instead of having this constant. So I would say, honestly, like, looking back on it, I feel like it's a pretty good accomplishment to put together a competent record without the click, because it's so important.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, I mean, sorry, go
ahead. You were on those first 3 records, right? Unhallowed, Miasma, Nocturnal, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. And yeah, you could hear the growth in you guys too, each one. Like, I think Nocturnal is probably my favorite of the 3, but Unhallowed was like came out right after I graduated high school that summer, listened to it all summer long. We were blaring it at parties that it shouldn't have been on at, like pissing people off. It was so fun. But yeah, a lot of memories with that record. Who was like your biggest influences at the time that, like, when you guys were writing?
Well, I would say a lot of the influences came from like a lot of like the Gothenburg Swedish stuff in the beginning, like At the Gates, Dissection, Carcass. Mm-hmm. I would say, as far as the writing goes, I can name you some of the songs that I contributed to, but Brian was the riff master.
Okay.
I remember, and it's funny because I remember at the time it used to bum me out that like I wasn't contributing more to the songs, but when I think about it now, I was really lucky to be in a group with somebody who could orchestrate stuff like that and put together songs that, that were memorable in the metal community. Because, I can think of a lot of metal bands and not name you any of their riffs. Right. So that I was definitely lucky in that aspect to get to work with somebody who could put together songs like that. Because in the beginning, I mean, I didn't really know shit about like melodic death metal and that kind of stuff. Like, I was listening to like, Ozzy and Rob Zombie and White Zombie and like, Rat and Poison and Van Halen. Like, I was not a death metal guy at all. Like, so like the first death metal I heard was like Decapitated, and I love Decapitated. So I remember like when I started to hear like some of the older stuff, like Morbid Angel, Cannibal, like I felt like I was already past that. Like I couldn't get in the mindset to appreciate it back then.
Right.
Because I was already at full speed, like, but now I love all that stuff. It's funny, like, 41, I'm going back, like buying Cannibal records, buying Morbid Angel records, Death records, and Cradle of Filth and all the stuff that I listened to, when I got into it. But yeah, I was just kind of like around when they were kind of putting it together, and then I kind of just got asked to join. It was kind of like I would go to practice, to their practices and hang out because I was friends. Mm-hmm. And then after they were done playing, I would just pick up a guitar and jam, and then I remember, one time just being asked to join, and that was that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize there was a guitarist before you for that short time, because I always thought you were basically in from the beginning, which you pretty much were, but...
Well, so there's a couple of EPs before the Unhallowed album came out on Metal Blade. There's actually 3 that I can think of. There's the Bias of Van, there's the Cold-Blooded Epitaph, and then, or maybe there's only 2. I know I can think of those 2. I was not on either of those. The original guitar player was John Deering, and they have 4 songs from those original albums that they decided. I feel like maybe we're a little bit too metalcore. Something, there's even a song with some clean singing in there.
I never heard that.
Yeah, yeah, you should definitely look into that. Definitely good songs, but the band I think before I joined, they kind of decided they were going to start heading in a more, death metal, with melody oriented direction. And I love that kind of stuff. I remember, when they showed me Carcass and Dissection and At the Gates, and even some more obscure ones like Mork Grinding and Blaze My Sorrow and Autumn Leaves, just some like late 90s, early 2000s metalcore bands that aren't active today, but just that kind of like got me into the whole scene, really.
Right. So before you joined, like how did you get your start on guitar, and like do you remember like the first time you realized like, oh, I heard this song and it like it made me feel something, and music might be a big part of my life?
Definitely. Well, music was always a huge part of my life, whether I liked it or not, because when I was 3 years old, my dad started making me play violin. And so I played that against my will for a big portion of my early childhood. I don't think I got super good at it, but I got good at it enough where my dad was like, "Oh yeah, he's really getting good," or maybe he was just talking shit. But right. I remember when I was 11 and I heard Jimi Hendrix and Van Halen and Queen, and I was like, "That is infinitely cooler than what I'm doing right now."
Right.
And so that's when I was like, I got to have a guitar. And I remember the transfer being a little easier than I thought it was going to be. I definitely didn't know how to read guitar music because on a violin, you can account for every note on the violin on the piece of paper. There's not different positions. It's just from low to high.
Right.
And so like each note has one place, and when it's there, that's that note. It's not in guitar where it changes positions and so I kind of lost my theory completely when I moved over to guitar. But I didn't care because I just thought it sounded so freaking cool. And that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't at that point think, oh, I want to be in a band, I want to go on tour, but I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is all I want to do is play guitar. And of course, Super Nintendo.
Right. So You got the itch. And what was your first guitar?
Oh shit! It was a Japanese Yamaha. I don't remember the model, but it was all candy apple red Japanese Yamaha Strat copy, and a PV Rage 158 combo.
Nice.
It was pretty legendary. I've actually thought about getting the Rage 158 combo a couple of times, but I've always managed to talk myself out of it because there's absolutely no reason.
I remember the first practice amp I had like a Cort, kind of like Fender shape, just cheap red guitar, white pick guard, and then the practice amp I had was like puke green with this big red volume knob on it, just the ugliest, worst sounding thing ever. And just maxed everything.
Was that a stock amp that came like that?
Yeah, it looked like it was from the 70s, just at the local shop down the street.
Oh, was it one of those custom amps with like the bubbled Tolex?
No, it just I can picture it in my head, but I can't really describe it. It was like it just looked straight out of the 70s, and it was like just this big.
Fair
but
enough.
It sounded like shit. But I just turned up everything to 10 to try to like compete with the guys and bands that had like a little bit bigger practice amps until we finally got half stacks.
Totally. I remember my transition into half stacks now that you mention it, because after that, I ended up with a Marshall valve state combo and a Crate GX something, one of the solid state high gain Crate combos. Yeah. And then I chained them together to make one monster combo.
Nice.
And it also sounded like shit, but I thought it sounded good at the time.
Right. So what kind of stuff were you playing before you got into like, were you basically like learning that style of metal once you joined that band, or were you playing it all before?
So no, actually, I was still kind of just playing like 12 bar blues stuff. And like, it actually took quite a long time before my writing style before I even developed a writing style, really, because I had never really written any music. But I think what impressed the guys before I joined was that I could see something and then play it.
Yeah.
So I would like, after they were done, I would play what they were playing, basically, like some, in like not exactly, but close enough. But yeah, no, I did not know how to play like that outside of BDM. I really just I was like, doing my Ozzy and my Bark at the Moons and yeah, I was still pretty much just a hair metal, like a regular metal person, not a death or I didn't get into like all the subgenres at first.
Right. Did you take lessons
for guitar? I tried. I could never. Did not have the attention span for lessons. I'll tell you that.
Same here.
The first, but oddly enough, this is funny that you bring this up. The first person I took lessons from was Kenny. I can't remember his last name, but he plays for Kid Rock, the Strat player in Kid Rock. Cannot remember his last name. At the time, he was working at a guitar store called Music Castle on Woodward over here in Royal Oak. And you would walk into this guitar store, and it was like the biggest cloud of cigarette smoke that anyone could ever. It was like billowing, like they had a smoke machine on, but it was all like super heavy cigarette smoke. Oh, wow. And they didn't have any good stuff in there. It was like, but they had it's like they had the worst and the best stuff that you could imagine at the same time. Like they had like the Line 6 AXS or the AX 212 combo with the Hammett sound, and they had the Samix, and I don't remember ever getting anything from there, but I went there to take guitar lessons, and there was this dude, Kenny, and he would just literally rip a solo for like 30 minutes in front of me and be like, dude, check this out. And like, I don't think I learned anything from him at all, but like, I was just like, this is so awesome. Like, this guy can play really well. And every once in a while he'd stop to try to like see if I was like still there. Yeah. Yeah, he would basically just rip solos, for like half an hour. And for $30. And then I remember one day I went in for a lesson, and I'm sitting there just, in this giant cloud of smoke. And after a half an hour, I go, somebody walks up and goes, can I help you? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm waiting for Kenny. I have a lesson. And they're like, oh, well, Kenny went and joined Kid Rock. He doesn't work here anymore. And so I was like, oh, okay. So oddly enough, about 5 or 6 years ago, I ran into him at a music store, another music store that's local here. And I reminded him that he owed me $30.
Was he the guy with like? Do you have pink hair in Kid Rock back in the day?
I think so. He's the one that played the Strat. Okay,
I think I can picture him.
You can.
Yeah.
I don't. But yes, that was really funny. Other than that, I tried to play with a couple of people. I will say there is one teacher who did end up helping me in my quest for theoretical competency, and that is Ben Cohen. I met him because he was playing for Power Glove.
Okay.
And that's actually kind of genius. Like these guys, do you know Power Glove?
I know the name, but I couldn't
they do like the
Nintendo.
Yes, you could, because they do all Nintendo covers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And they have the screen behind them, and they have like, do the Mario, and but it's like neoclassical Nintendo.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And so I met him through there, and so then years later, I kind of just hit him up, and I was like, because he's a Berkeley grad, this guy Ben, and I was like, do you want to do some lessons? And so after like a couple of months of lessons, he actually broke it down for me so I could understand, because I think my strength in guitar was that I could play really fast, and I could play whatever you showed me after however much practice it took to get it down. But I always kind of felt like I was lacking outside of that. Like, I didn't really have like a guitar identity. I mean, I love Dimebag, of course, and so I try to model some of my guitar playing after him because I always thought he was super badass. But yeah, it took. Wait, where were we? I lost my train of thought there.
We were talking about lessons.
Yep.
And then
it'll happen.
Yeah. I actually forgot where you're going with it too.
That's fine. That's fine. It'll happen.
But I was going to ask though, did you ever learn to like read music at all, or did you just kind of like stick to picking it up as you could, and maybe tabs or?
No. Okay. You just made me remember where we were going. So no, I never learned to read. I never learned to read music. But yeah, so taking lessons with Ben, when you get in your 40s, you train wreck every once in a while.
Of
So
course.
taking lessons with Ben, he was actually breaking down the modes for me.
Hey friends, if you're enjoying the show, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button and like the episode on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please follow the show and leave a quick rating. It really helps me out a lot. And if you know someone who'd enjoy it, please share the episode with them too. Thanks so much. All right, back to it.
And so once I realized the pattern, once I could find the patterns and the modes, I kind of could visualize the whole neck. And then I had this huge aha moment, and I could finally I didn't really need to I stopped taking lessons with him because he snowballed me into the point where I was like figuring stuff out on my own, because once I realized the order of the modes, then I could hear it in other music. And so I started to play. And so when I'm downstairs with my kids and they're watching, Miss Rachel or, Colorful Shapes or whatever the hell's playing on TV, I'll play along to the tracks because I can hear. It's like, oh, that's a C major, and so now I know what C major looks like. Yeah. And then I just play along to it and have or like Old MacDonald, you know what I mean? So I just solo over Old MacDonald, and then that way I get to keep my chops up and spend time with my kids. And
there you go.
But yeah, really learning the modes just kind of made guitar so much more fun for me, because every time I pick the guitar up, I'm like, oh, well, I figured out this shape that's within this mode, and well, let me play that shape in different modes all over the neck and start challenging myself that way.
You could finally play with fluidity and
I started to get a bit more fluidity, and then I could look back at some of my BDM solos and be like, oh, I was playing in Dorian, but we were doing it in harmonic minor. I haven't memorized the harmonic minor mode names. I haven't felt the need to, because you're just sharping or flatting one or two notes to make it harmonic minor. Mm-hmm. So I just say, I know that Dorian is this, and I know that if I sharp the third, then that's harmonic minor.
Right.
But I don't remember this. I don't remember the names. There's names for the modes, and
I don't know anything. I literally just do this. Okay, that sounds right. Yep. Or move it down one fret, move it up one fret. Yeah.
No, dude. But then there's value to that too. And so since I've spent 2.5 years doing drilling scales and modes, and I found myself in this rut of drilling scales and modes all the fucking time, and then not doing anything else. And so actually going back and listening to Cannibal and Deicide and Morbid Angel and Death, they do a lot of that. They found a shape that was cool. There's not a ton of theory. Oh, what's up, Kitty? They found it. Death, of course, Chuck knew theory, but there's not a ton of. When I listen to Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse and Deicide, there's not a ton. I don't think about what key they're playing in. It just sounds brutal as fuck, and then they kind of change it around. And so I kind of realized there's value in playing perfectly within the rules, but then there's also value of Cannibal Corpse. Try and learn a Cannibal Corpse song. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm waiting, because they're not easy. None of them. When Cannibal Corpse was looking for another guitar player, I immediately started learning Cannibal Corpse songs, and I reached out to Paul because I know them from touring with them, and I was like, this is probably a long shot. I was like, but I love you guys, and if there's a way I can help, and so I was like, I started learning the songs, and I tuned the guitar down to G and learned Evisceration Plague, and tuned the guitar in B flat, and started learning, Five Nails Through the Neck, and I was looking at their most recent set lists and stuff. That shit is not easy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And of course, it was obviously I don't think I was necessarily qualified, but hey, you know what? You never know if you don't ask.
Yeah, you got to take a shot.
And he didn't. And you know what? I'm honored, because he didn't just say no. He was like, oh, okay. And so, obviously it made more sense for them to get someone who's already, in the death metal scene. And, Rutan was obviously an awesome choice, but I tried to get, I tried to get in there.
Right.
I definitely tried.
So you guys' tuning, I've seen a lot of back and forth on the internet when I was trying to learn your songs. So did you guys tune to drop C on the first record and then switch after that?
Correct. Yeah. Well, so initially, even before that, they were in drop D for the first EP, and then they tuned to drop C for the next EP, and then Unhallowed was in drop C. And then I think we kind of just decided as a group that it was just more brutal to be in standard. And
I was going to ask why the shift to standard after
just
that.
because it was more death metal, I think.
Yeah.
I also liked playing in standard a lot. I think I remember bitching about wanting to be in standard, and you know, it was kind of like, well, we got to be able to play all these because, you know, like a lot of the riffs in Unhallowed are, you know, since they're in drop, like it makes the stretch two more frets bigger because you're playing it in standard now.
Right.
But we still did it, and I think it, you know, it definitely changed the writing style and the, you know, because now your power chords aren't like this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned Elder Misanthropy and did a cover I posted on YouTube a while back. And when I was like, I'm pretty sure this is drop C. It feels right. And then I tried standard. And then, I noticed instantly, like some of the stretches were like, oh, I was like, there's no way they were in standard for this.
Yeah, no, we did end up switching to standard for it. And it's funny, for years, for instance, one of my more favorite songs that we played off on Unhallowed was Apex. And there's some pretty decent stretches in that, just in the verse riff, and it's just like, only just recently did I realize that I could hit the A string instead of doing those fucking huge stretches, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, why did I never think of that before? I remember, like, because I have like I'll call it a chop list on YouTube to help me keep my chops up, and it's BDM. It's basically a bunch of BDM songs, some Dream Theater songs, Bark at the Moon. It's just like all the songs that I can play that aren't easy, that I can, you know, keep my chops up, because the muscle memory goes away if you don't use it.
Yeah. Your brain will want to do it still, but your hands, like, nope.
No, your hands will be really sad and locked up. And I actually had to stop playing for several months because I just my tendons started to feel like they were on fire when I would play for longer than 5 or 10 minutes. And I think that I'll just attribute that to the fact that I just drilled fucking scales and modes, like, just like, because I figured out I could do that. And I'm like, oh my God, well, now that I know all these mode shapes, well, now I can run them up and down the neck. And so I spent an absurdly stupid amount of time learning how to run these scale shapes up and down the neck.
Right.
And, you know, as you get older, you know, you gotta maximize your play time, because you have to stop after a while. So you have to think about, like, well, okay, after about an hour and a half of brutality, like, I'm gonna probably need to chill. So what can I play to you know, to maximize what I'm getting from the time that I can play, where I need, you know. And so so I've got like a list of BDM songs, and it's mostly from Unhallowed and Miasma, because those are the songs we played the most. The way I would describe Nocturnal is like that was like Brian's writing, like shooting out of a cannon at full speed. So it's basically like the most technical stuff that I ever played personally. Like I can navigate my way through 98% of Unhallowed. There is a couple of parts in Hymn for the Wretched that because we didn't play that song a whole ton. And then through Miasma, there's only a couple of songs that I haven't bothered to learn. Novelty Crosses and Dave Goes to Hollywood. Again, we didn't really play those very much. Novelty Crosses is really hard because it switches tempos in the beginning. I remember that being a really fun one. But yeah, Nocturnal, I can play Death Mass Divine. I did manage to get all the way through that. And I've been trying to reteach myself What a Horrible Night to Have, or Everything Went Black, but I feel like that's the hardest song on the whole record. I just like, I feel like there isn't really a good tab out there, at least that I've found, because the Songster one, the notes are correct, but I think some of the positioning is off because it feels just unnecessarily hard. And it's just that stuff. I played that stuff the least because I was in the band for, you know, about a year, I think maybe a year and a half. After that album was released, or actually, no, it was about a year. So I didn't really play that stuff as much. So that actually has been like the hardest to go back and relearn. But I just,
you didn't have that repetition on tour for years with it, where like it just gets ingrained forever.
Unhallowed, it was just like, oh my God. Like I would say Unhallowed is the hardest for my picking hand. It's really quick. especially since there was no click to keep us in line. There's parts where we slow down, and then there's parts where we speed the fuck up like really fast. So I would say, like, as far as playing along to it, it definitely requires quite a bit of endurance to make it through Unhallowed, because some of the fast parts are really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell, like, I felt that too. Like, when I would pick up a riff here and there on that record, you can feel where it speeds up and slows down, and like that there was no click. So the writing process, you said it was like Brian mostly bring these songs to the table, then you kind of put them together as a group, or how did the writing process work for you guys?
So the writing process, at least from what I remember it, in the beginning, it was kind of like we would toss around riffs when we were all at practice, and really, we all got kind of comfortable just relying on Brian to kind of orchestrate everything. I mean, he did it really, really well. And once Brian learned Pro Tools, that was pretty much it. After that, like he was able to just bring like entire songs to the table, like, and then he would learn to do drum editing. And I just remember being like, man, like, I wish I could have been part of that. And I used to get all bummed out about it, but no, I was lucky to be able to be with somebody who could do that kind of stuff, because I could not. And there's some, I have some riffs definitely that I wrote. Like, I wrote the opening riff to Flies. I wrote the opening riff to Vulgar Picture. I got some riffs on Unhallowed. I wrote a couple riffs in Contagion. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it was more like I wrote the opening riff to What a Horrible Night to Have a Curse. I remember I kind of like had that rhythm in my head. And then Brian turned it into a whole song, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, I definitely, like, at the time, I was like, like maybe I thought of what the next riff would have gone into, but I definitely couldn't have orchestrated an entire song from that. Like, he was able to turn that into like an entire, and that ended up being like one of my most favorite songs, just because it just kind of like sways. It just kind of like sways back and forth, and kind of reminds me of a pendulum, which is oddly comforting to me. I don't know why.
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, like
I like to sway. I like to
so
sway.
He just had that mind, like he would get a riff and just see the rest of the song.
Totally, yeah. And
that's so cool.
It really is. It really is. I honestly, I try to think about like the whole, like I feel like he was probably thinking about like the whole group, like while he's writing his guitars, like, okay, well, the bass is probably going to do this, like the drums are probably going to do something like that, and it was honestly amazing. I still struggle. I feel like at times to come up with an entire song. Like, I'll come up with like a verse and a chorus, and then I'll repeat it, and then I'll like try to like break it down, and then go into a solo. But he would do like daring stuff, like be like, okay, well, we're gonna like open up with the chorus, and then do, and back then I would just be like, which part is the chorus? And he's like that, So I that's that. It was just like, that was basically like my, like my skill level as far as writing goes. So, but it worked out because he had somebody that could learn the parts that he would write, and I could contribute a little bit if I needed to. And I feel like it was a good dynamic.
Yeah. I'm kind of that guy in our band, like clearly not as good as he is, but like I learned how to program drums like when I wasn't in a band over the years, just so I could like make songs myself, because like I wasn't trying to start a band again and like just doing other things. But learning how to program drums in GarageBand was like a big aha moment for me. It's like, oh, I could make my entire like demo myself, and then I got a crappy bass and I would put bass parts down.
Oh yeah.
So then now when we got back together in 2023, I started doing that for our demos, because I was living in Texas. The guys were here in Ohio, and I moved back later. But like I can lay out a whole song. I can do a whole song eventually, but I don't see the entire thing right away like that. Like, so
sure, yeah.
I'll lay down a part. Sometimes I'll know exactly what I want to do after, but then I'll get stuck, and it'll be like a month, and then I got to come back to it and be like, should I trash this or whatever? But it
then
just
when you
sounds
come
like
back to it, then when you come back to it, you're just like, fuck, where was I going with this? And like, because you've had such a break from it, and I find like if I take too big of a break from what I'm working on, then I have to just start over, because I'm just like, well, what was I thinking about doing with this? Like, it's almost hard to get into that mindset. I didn't know you were in Ohio. Shit.
Yeah, I moved back just over a year ago.
Where?
And I'm in Cortland, but Warren is like the nearest city, but Youngstown, I guess I should say, is the closest city that you would know. We're like in the middle of Cleveland and Pittsburgh on the Ohio-PA border.
Okay, that's still a couple of hours, but that's doable at some point.
You're in Royal Oak, Michigan, you said?
Yeah, well, close. Yeah, I'm in Oak Park, but yeah, I mean it's basically the same area.
Okay, I think my friend John just moved there from Austin. But so how far are you from like Detroit?
Like 15 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, you're about like what 4 hours from here, something like that.
Okay, that sounds. I said a couple hours because I'm not exactly sure, and my brain isn't like pinpointing on Youngstown. I know it's like probably like a decent bit away from the border, so it's got to be at least 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, it's like we're yeah. I think it's 3 hours to the border, maybe 2.5, and then maybe another hour to you, something like that. But it's not too bad of a drive.
I used to know the map a lot more, because when I was touring with BDM, like in the beginning, we were using Rand McNally. We didn't have no Garmin or we didn't have we were. I remember watching Brian read the map, and I'm just like, this is, and we would get like MapQuest directions to the shows and stuff, like
the binder.
Total. Oh yeah, we had a huge binder of MapQuest directions. And then I remember getting the first Garmin, and it was like, oh my god, you can like search for restaurants, and I think that's how we ended up finding out about Sheetz.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest, the greatest gas station ever created.
Second to Buc-ee's, but it is up there.
I haven't been to Buc-ee's. And then also Wawa was my other attraction. Probably mostly just because of CKY.
For sure.
But
what were you guys touring in back then? You used to have a big 15 passenger?
I don't think it was a 15 passenger at first. I think it was just a 7 passenger. And yeah, it was just I think the first van had seats in it. We didn't understand at first that you could like rip out all the seats and like lay like sardines in the van.
My first band did that too.
And so initially we would have like, if like you would get a shift on one of the benches, and then somebody would probably sleep on, somebody would do like an actual like rolled prosciutto cheese roll like in between the seat and the back of the other seat. And then I think we figured out pretty quick, like, how much it sucked, and ripped out all the seats and sardined it, because I think the first tour had the 5 of us and 2 other people, someone to do the merch and someone to kind of help with everything else. I don't think there were like actual jobs in the beginning. It was just like everybody helped out with everything.
Right.
But yeah. Oh yeah. And also I remember going on tour, I learned the value of packing light, because the first couple of tours that I did, I had this monster suitcase with probably a month's worth of clothes in it.
I did the same exact thing. Giant bag.
And somehow every single place we stayed at was like up 2 or 3 flights of stairs. Just managed to be that way. So I learned really quick that like you do your laundry every week and you just bring enough for 1 week.
Yeah. I remember we learned a trick from somebody on the road. I forget who it was, but they were like, for socks, because like clean socks are just, always the best. So they were like, I would buy like 2 packs of socks or whatever, however many for every day of tour, and they would just throw the socks away at the end of every day instead of having to do laundry and collecting all these dirty socks.
Filthy. Oh God. I think I remember Ben from Goat Whore being, they would put socks on their rider. I was like, I used to think like, why do they have socks in their dressing room? And then like, I asked him, I'm like, why the fuck do you guys have socks in your dressing room? He's like, dude, sucks having to buy socks and do laundry. And they would all put on some fresh Hanes ass socks. And I was like, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard.
That's the simple things on tour. It's the shit you don't think of like that just like your quality of life improvements. Like just have shit like that on your right. Not like fancy, give me this alcohol, it's expensive, or M&M's separated by color. It's give me a fucking pair of socks.
Well, yeah, you got fresh socks rather than ones that can stand on their own. Yeah,
absolutely. Did you guys ever tour in a bus before that you left the band?
There was a couple of times we were in a bus. I remember being so scared because I did a lot of the driving. Well, at least I volunteered to do a lot of the driving. Just because I had a hard time sleeping when anyone else was driving. I just could never. It was really difficult. I would have to like be medicated.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first experience we had on a bus no, there was an early experience on a bus because in 2004 we did an Xmas festival with. Okay, hold on, memory activated. We did an Xmas festival with Marduk headlining, followed by Napalm Death and Fintroll and Vader and maybe someone else. Though it was like it was a festival tour. And yeah, I can't think of who else was on it. But yeah, we were on a bus for that, and somehow I ended up on Napalm Death's bus because there was just a shortage of beds. Like there was like one bus that had like 3 bands on it. It was a double-decker bus. I think it held like 20 or 21 people. And then there was another bus, I think, with Napalm Death, and Marduk was on that bus. And so we got kind of shifted around, but everybody was really cool. That was actually my first and only experience with alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Well, so when I found out really early in my touring career that Europeans, especially Scandinavian folks, can drink heavily, and it does not affect them in the slightest.
Yeah.
And so I remember just hanging out with Vader and Fintroll and just drinking clear liquids, not water. And I remember the next morning I woke up with fire here, just, and it was not fire that was staying put. It was ready to come out.
Right.
And so the bus was stopped when I woke up, and I just remember being like, I got to get off the bus because this is not going to be a clean thing. I don't want to do that to the bands on the bus or the bus driver. And so we were just in Austria somewhere in the middle of the snow. I remember I walked out the bus. I was just like, fuck. Because it was just snow and a bunch of stuff I couldn't read and nothing was open. I don't know what time it was. So I just went on the first door and just started knocking. Thankfully, someone answered. I think it was like a TV studio or something. I have no idea. There was like a bunch of rack-mounted equipment. And I was like, bathroom, please. I didn't know what to do. And I annihilated their fucking bathroom as cleanly as I could. And then the Napalm Death guys kind of just nurtured me with bits of charcoal and toast, and I played a couple shows with a puke bucket next to me, and that was that. I'm not much of a drinker. I'm more of an herbalizer. Mm-hmm. Always. That's definitely something that I'll probably be like, if I make it to 80, I'll probably be like Chong and just be like, gotta have my herbs every once in a while, keep the edge off, grandpa's elixir.
Yep. Is that legal in Michigan now?
It is legal in Michigan now, although I have a hard time with that because it was for so long, even at the like you go to buy a bong or something at the pipe store, like we weren't allowed to say bong. It was like you had to say water pipe. Like it was very not okay to do and now I'm driving down the road and I see like 419 got a minute, and it's like that's actually like paid advertisement when I used to see it like on t-shirts at Gags and Gifts.
Right.
I don't know if that's still a thing anymore. I bet it's not. But
it's legal in Ohio now too, and I
is
am
it
not
really?
used to that. Yeah, like totally recreationally. I was living in Texas before this, and and they're still like, it's completely illegal. I think, medicinally a little bit, but it wasn't even like I lived in California too before that, and I could just go to any doctor and be like, I have anxiety, and they write you a prescription and you go get it. But
that's almost a reason to move to Ohio. You got Amish meats and cheeses, like aplenty, and then you can get stoned too. Like, can't think of anything better. I mean, maybe some palm trees.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And not the winter we just had. That sucked ass.
Yeah, that was brutalic.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys got hit. You get worse from the lake, probably.
I don't think anybody gets it as bad as upstate New York.
Yeah, they get fucked.
They really get it hard.
So what would your rig look like back then?
Okay,
when you first started.
I like rigs. I love gear. In the beginning, it was a dual rectifier with a JCM 900 cabinet, I think. what was I for? Okay, I know there was a point where I was using a Mesa recording preamp and a VHT power amp for a second, but I think it was Brian was playing a triple rectifier, and I was like, that's the best sounding thing I've ever heard in my life. He had this, I want to say it was a Rev G, probably like a late 90s triple rectifier 2-channel.
Yeah, those were like the best ones, right?
It sounded, you know what? I didn't appreciate the triple rectifier back then. I thought it was overkill. I still do think it's overkill. It was like, I had a triple rectifier for a second, but every time I turned it on, I would just visualize my energy meter just because I'm like, why do I need 9 tubes? Even though, it's not really that much more of a difference. It's still pulling the same amount of amps, maybe like one more amp or something than a dual rectifier. But yeah, I remember his rectifier sounded badass. I can't remember if I played anything before then. I think I might have had a JCM 900 head for a second. But I had to boost it with an overdrive to get a sound usable for BDM. Same thing. But we were using EMGs at the time, so I can't remember if I was using a boost, but it was some kind of Mesa with a Marshall cabinet. So like when I'm actually like when I'm jamming along to BDM stuff and I'm using my Axe FX 2, I'm thinking about. It's funny you should say that. I'm actually thinking about, well, what the hell was I using back then when I'm making my tone? And I feel like I've gotten pretty close. It was pretty quick that we bought 4 cabs from Mike Hasty from Walls of Jericho. He was making cabinets at the time, and he would build guitar cabinets into road cases. So your cabinet was a road case with a cabinet built into it, and you would just put the front on and latch it, and then that was it. So, and I know they still have those, and those had Celestion K120s in there, and that's 120 watt speaker. So then we ended up having 480 watt cab. And what that did, I feel like now knowing more about, the nerdy stuff, it provided a more of a flat response. So you could get more treble and mid-range out of the amp because the speaker it's a 480 watt cab. You're barely moving those speakers with a 100 watt amp. Right. Even a 150 watt amp, which is actually only 102 watts. If you really crank it out, Steve Fryat from VHT did a study where he full blasted a bunch of amps, and the dual rec is a 72 watt head, and the triple rec is 108 watts. But there's still, even like when you're playing live, you're probably barely cracking 30 or 40 watts before the sound guy's like, you need to chill the hell out and turn your amp down. So I have some room to play out front.
Didn't Hasty record you guys? Or?
Yeah, Cloud City, I believe. Cloud something was what he called his studio. It was at this place called the Loft in Redford. And once you get past the pee smell in the downstairs, you are greeted by a bunch of rooms of people making really loud music. And now, I think there's only 2 metal bands there now. I was actually surprised to know that it was still around. But yeah, we recorded there. And I just remember playing Grand Theft Auto 3 on PS2 when it wasn't my turn, or when I wasn't needed to be active listening and that kind of stuff. It was just a lot of PS2, and just a lot of I probably just a lot of re-recording my guitar parts, just because we were like, I think because we weren't recording to a click, like we would have to like, I can just remember being like, okay, nope, I got to do it again. Nope, got to do it again. Got to do it. And some of it would be, because we have to like match everything because it was like, I guess the way I look at playing without a click is like, you're kind of like, you're in a house of cards that's maybe just a little wobbly, and it wouldn't take much for it to all collapse and train wreck. Right. So in that sense, bands that can play shows and record albums and stuff without a click, it's not personally what I would do. I like to have the click, but that's not something that's easy to do.
Yeah. I think I like to record to a click, but not like go in and fix everything perfectly. Like,
sure, yeah. So
there's a foundation.
If you sway a little bit before, well, yeah, it gives an organic feel to it.
Keep it human, yeah.
Especially if you're programming drums, it's really hard to not make it sound mechanical when you're blasting, because it's, if you blast on the grid, it's pretty easy to tell that it's programmed.
Yeah, once I learned the humanize feature, that was huge, where you could
That
shift
does help.
everything a little bit off, and then you got to change the impact of each hit to be a little like lighter here and like whatever. But yeah, blasts are the hardest thing to make sound real for sure.
Since I don't think I would ever have a project that would, well, maybe I would, but I haven't had a project where I'm like, I'm going to have a program drums be my drummer. I've never really cared enough to go in and fix that. I might adjust the velocity a little bit lazily, but I never really. There is a what the hell's his name? Now I can't think of his name. There's a MIDI pack from Drum Kit from Hell, or is it Drum? No, Easy Drummer, not Drum Kit from Hell. That's just something within Easy Drummer. There's a Fredlander. I can't remember. I think it's the drummer. I can't remember the drummer from Soilwork. He put together a MIDI pack of a bunch of blast beats and double bass and that kind of stuff, and it's all already humanized because he's doing it.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I remember
you can adjust the tempo of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you just put it in, and then you can change the grid, you can change the tempo in your session, and it'll.
That's cool. Yeah.
I lost all that though, so Yeah. But yeah, it's. The humanized feature is cool, but I feel like personally for me, I just never used it because I'm just like, well, I think I would want somebody to play it anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, if you're not going for a final product, it doesn't matter.
Totally.
Do you remember your rig that you recorded with at the time?
Yes. So I recorded for Unhallowed. I recorded through Brian's triple rectifier, and I used Brian's ESP Eclipse, the black one with the white binding and the maple neck with the ebony fretboard and no inlays. I think that was my favorite ESP of his that he ever had, and the Floyd. I did all the rhythms, all my rhythms on that guitar, just because it just sounded badass. Like I couldn't argue. He was like, "No, you need to do your rhythms on this guitar," and I don't think I argued at all because it just sounded killer. And then I used my soloist to do my leads, also through the dual rectifier, or also through the triple rectifier. Miasma was also recorded with the. I don't remember what we recorded. I think we recorded it with Brian's triple rectifier, but then when we went to Tracks East and mixed it with Eric Rachel, we ended up reamping it where my side was through a dual rectifier, just a regular 3-channel dual rectifier and a boost, and Brian's side was shit. Now I'm mixing the two because we went to Eric Rachel's twice. I know that. Oh nope. For Miasma, it was Mesa mixed with Crank. It was either a Rev 1 or one of the Dimebag ones. But I know we started blending amps at that point. We started getting creative.
Yeah.
And that's when I started like mixing like every single amp just that I could think of. Like I think at one point I had like a stiletto and I would blend it with, but it just became such a pain in the ass to like blend both together and the A/B switch, and sometimes it would get noisy and but yeah. So then Miasma was with I think we ended up I can't remember. I think it was some form of Mesa something for Miasma. We were pretty heavy with Mesa, and then Nocturnal we recorded with Mesa. Brian's side, he recorded with his triple rectifier and a Bruno Leadman 60 mixed together. That sounded fucking sick. And then I used a Mesa Roadster for my side, which I also thought sounded really sick. Channel 3 vintage mode. But then when they went to Jason Sukoff's at Audio Hammer in Florida to mix it, that's where they went to mix it. They ended up reamping with 5150s. I was really bummed out at the time because I really loved the Mesa, but I think arguably Unhallowed would be the best sounding record that I was a part of in the band's repertoire. So I couldn't really argue.
It definitely has its own sound for sure.
Totally. They reamped that one with 5150s, and then I think I was told that because I didn't end up going to the mixing session. I think it was just to have less people there so that you could get stuff done, because more opinions takes more time to make everybody happy.
Right.
I can respect that now. My solos actually went through a Diesel VH4, which I thought was pretty cool. So I've never played through one of those.
Were you guys endorsed by ESP Or did you all play ESPs?
Yeah, we were endorsed by ESP. I ended up playing PRS towards the end of my career with BDM, but it was basically ESP the whole time.
Nice. That's what we were endorsed by them too, and like that was the like most unexpected thing I ever thought would I be able to walk in there and pick 2 guitars off the wall each year, or they would send them to me in the mail. Like that was the coolest thing ever. I still have most of them.
That's what we did. That's what we did. Yeah. They would give us 2 guitars each year. I sadly don't have them anymore because after I wasn't in the band, I would say I went through, I don't know if I want to call it culture shock, but I went through some kind of shock because I did not know what the hell to do with myself at all. Yeah. I did not know what I should do. And so I got into tech. I actually, because of a buddy of mine, Bob, I got a job doing tech support at Ford Motor. Just like I walked in there, and during my interview, I was just like, yeah, I didn't go to school for this. I don't have any usable efforts that I can put on paper. And they're like, well, why should we give you this job? And I'm like, well, I can like mod Xboxes and solder shit and like, and they were like, did you know that's illegal? And I was like, yeah, they were giving me a pretty hard time. I ended up getting the job though. So they ended up giving me a chance because I was like, well, I know how to take computers apart. I was like, I've been playing, I might not have the job skills on paper, but I was like, that's what I do outside. And I put, I had BDM on my resume, and guy like went and looked me up and like, and was like, it was hilarious. But yeah, so I ended up doing tech for a while, and I'm not doing that now. I think I just got really tired of fixing people's computers that were making 10 times more than me. Right. But yeah,
so you sold all the ESPs is what you're saying? Or?
I got rid of all the ESPs, so that I could live. Sadly, I don't have a bunch of. I do have one PRS from my BDM days. The one that I used in the video that you edited for us.
Oh, nice.
That is a PRS that I used towards the end of my career. But yeah, unfortunately, I got into a position where it wasn't logical for me to keep all that stuff when I needed to eat and pay rent and live and that kind of stuff. And
oh, totally. I sold a couple. I kept most of them because they like meant so much to me.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out.
Yeah, I did have to sell a couple, so same thing for me. But
yeah,
I got the MH1000 baritone. I don't know if you can see him behind me. I picked up 2 of those when we got back together, but we always tuned to drop A, and we never had a guitar that was like properly set up.
Sure.
So having these, I'm like, wow, like this is what it's like to have intonation that works.
Yeah, you're basically it's just one step for you to go to A.
Yeah, and I have like big long fingers, so it just feels more natural with the wider frets. I really love them.
Yeah, I can't do baritones and extended scale guitars because I have fat, short fingers. So as much as I appreciate the extra string tension from extended scale and baritone guitars, when I do my fast runs, my fingers are friggin' crying.
Oh yeah.
I've gone up and down with having a shit ton of gear and not having a shit ton of gear. And I think there was one point where I got down to 1 guitar and 1 amp. Because I got really heavy back into Magic cards, and I just like got rid of like a ton of my gear, and I was like specifically buying like first edition alpha Magic cards for some reason. I don't know why. And
I don't know anything about Magic, but I assume those aren't cheap.
No, they're stupidly expensive. I thought I was gonna like buy my retirement or I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. But yeah, so I got a ton of these black bordered Magic cards thinking I was badass, which I wasn't. And I actually got like physically depressed where like I didn't want to do anything and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was just like, just didn't want to do anything. And like, I would like play my guitar every once in a while. I had like a white Les Paul Studio. And then I had this amp that I built with Bruce Egnater in 2016. And I was like playing through it and I'm like, man, this is fucking depressing. Like I was like, I think I might be depressed because I only have 1 guitar. And it turned out that was true. Because I got totally dumped out of Magic for like embarrassingly for like the 7th time. Because I started playing Magic when it was like brand new in 1993. I was like this 10-year-old kid being like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I can be a wizard and or sorcerer at lunch, just on the school floor.
At lunch.
Just at lunch on the school floor. Like, they quickly banned that shit because they're like, like, what are these, freaks doing casting spells at school? You know what I mean? Like, and
I think I had one deck and I played once and I didn't understand it. And I was like, I just like video games more. Like, I'm that kind of nerd. So
that's fine.
I never got into it.
So I loved playing Magic so much. I loved the idea of the cards. I loved like the mechanic and all that stuff. But it got to the point where there was so much to it where I couldn't play it anymore because there was just too much to think about during the match. And I'm just like, so now I do still play it. I'll play like the online version, so I don't have to have a physical collection. And I feel like that's how I can still play it and enjoy it. But yeah, I was just like, nope, I'm getting rid of all these fucking Magic cards. I need more guitars and amps. And I think I had spent an embarrassing like $6,000 on alpha cards.
Oh wow.
Yeah, really, like over time, like it was like every month I was putting like a couple hundred bucks, or I would sell this or that, and then I'd put $1,000 in because I would sell something, and I was thinking like, oh, this is like an investment. I gotta fucking buy all these things up.
It's like the stock market.
Yeah, I was like, if I don't, but what I noticed is that the shit fluctuated so heavily that you really couldn't count on what it was going to sell for. But I ended up having like 1,100 of these cards, and if you know, like anybody who knows anything about Magic, like they did not print very many of them, the original ones, because they didn't know if the game was going to take off, and a lot of them got destroyed and all that stupid shit. So my little $6,000 that I put in turned into like 19.5.
Wow.
So I was able to get all my gear back that I was missing, and I got like a couple different rectifiers and all this kind of stuff, and then that kind of was like got me back into like, okay, now I like really need to get down back into guitar, but yeah, there was a second where I kind of like didn't play guitar for a second and kind of like didn't really care about it and I was just like, but after like a while, I felt really stupid just like flipping through a book of cards, because I can tell you on zero hands how many games of Magic I played while I was collecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need that break though. Like, if we like, what, you've been playing guitar for how many years now? Like 30 years, something like that?
Something like that. Let's see, 27 years.
Yeah, so something like that for me, maybe like 25. But like I went through the same period after our band broke up, and I was like, fuck this. Like, couldn't make any money doing that. I'm so over it, and put in all this work for years and was miserable on the road, and then moved to California. I'm like, let me try something else. And then I took a long break, and then eventually found myself, my way back to it too. I always kept, a couple guitars with me wherever I moved at least. And then I found like had a newfound like interest in it again, and got really excited and like, oh, let me go relearn all my old songs and learn new stuff and check out what's going on in the scene now. So sometimes that break is nice, and then you come back reinvigorated.
Well, I think the break was good for me because I spent so long just being kind of a mimer and being like, well, I could play stuff that other people wrote, but I didn't really have the ability to come up with anything on my own or anything that inspired me. And then I didn't know how to record in Pro Tools when I quit the band. And so that was another thing. It was kind of like teaching myself how to record and finding the fundamentals of like knowing how to like do the other instruments. And then that like years later, that's what kind of gave me the appreciation for Brian's ability at that point, because I'm like, this is, once I like would start to like try to put a song together, I would think about like, that shit's, it's not easy. And so I think it took me some years, and, maybe I think we all have regrets about how we handled and did things in the past. I'm definitely no exception.
Yeah. I mean, the first time you open a DAW too is just so overwhelming. Like,
no, it's so underwhelming because you're like, what do I do? There's nothing in here. It's just a fucking blank window.
Yeah.
Like you got your program's going to ask you what you want to do when you open it, and you're like, well, I don't know, record stuff. But no, you have to make a track. You gotta make a track. You gotta figure out like route that you gotta do your routing. Then like there's a serious learning. Like I just went right for Pro Tools because it's all I had ever known, because anytime we went to go record, it was in Pro Tools.
Right.
So that's all I knew. So I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to go with Pro Tools, but maybe maybe that was not a good idea because it's not, but in hindsight, it was good because then once, and I had a buddy at the time that, was pretty proficient in that. And he was showing me stuff in shortcuts and things like that. And then recently I took a pretty big break from recording because everything is a freaking subscription now. You can't, you can't own anything. So it's like, well, I'm not paying yearly to have Pro Tools because I'm not making any money with it. So what's the point? So I got me a Reaper. So then like my foray getting back into recording was I got me a Reaper subscription. And you can actually have Reaper. Pay $60 for it. You have it. You can use it. It's yours. I do miss Pro Tools. There's definitely some stuff.
I hear really good things about Reaper. I'm on Logic because you can pay for that once and can't have it forever. But I'm an Apple guy for everything, so I was like, I'll just do that, I guess.
It's not. I was an Apple guy for everything too in the beginning. I'm on a PC now just because it's so intertwined now. It doesn't really matter, unless you just have to have that hardware. But yeah, I just being in Reaper, especially the drum editing, recording or writing drums in MIDI is not as easy in Reaper as it is in, for the longest time. I'm like, so you got to hit record and wait 3 minutes for it to create a MIDI track so that I can, really? You can just go insert MIDI item and just select the, but it was just like things that I used to be able to do super easily in Pro Tools. Like it was like completely different in Reaper. So I basically felt like an idiot again. So I'm like, here I am going to Google, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? But the easiest way to learn something is just to have the right questions. If you have the right question, all the answers are all out there for you to obtain the knowledge.
Every session I do, I'm always on Google at some point, or I'm talking to ChatGPT, which is very bad with Logic help, by the way. They always give you the wrong thing. Like, go to this menu. I'm like, that menu doesn't even exist.
You better be careful with them shits talking into ChatGPT, because then they got like your thoughts are like in text in ChatGPT, and then if somebody else wants to use that, it's just right in there, and now you're in the Matrix, dude. You better just be careful. Yeah. You better just be careful with all them shits.
It is. It's scary how much it gets to know you, because like it remembers everything. I pay for the subscription.
ChatGPT tells me stuff even when I don't need it to, because like I'll search stuff. I'm old school, so I search stuff in the Google chat, but I'd be lying if I said that some of the ChatGPT explanations that just pop up from Copilot, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm just like, what's the bigger purpose behind all that? And then I'm like, you know what? I better not wonder too much, because all of the electronics that are essentially wiretaps in my house, I better just go back to just enjoying my video game or my thing. You know what? I better not ask too many damn questions.
Yeah, you can go crazy worrying about it, but I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm surrounded
Kitty
by
sighting.
Oh.
Yeah, Kitty. Yeah,
there's two of them. He was on my lap until a minute ago.
I love kitties, so I got to point them out.
Yeah, me too. I saw yours earlier. What's his name or her name?
So I got her when I was grieving my previous animal, and so I was like, I'm not going to name her because I don't want to fall in love with her. Of course, that was the stupidest thing ever. So I call her little girl or sweetie or Cece, or basically just like anything else that you love that has a million names, because the more you love something, the more different things you'll call it by.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
every day a different name.
She's going to be 16.
Oh wow.
Well, she's a Cornish Rex, and they're kind of like pit bulls in a sense that they don't start slowing down until like it's going to be time.
Yeah.
Like she'll still play. She still bats at stuff. Like she still sleeps with me every night. Like, she's still very vocal. But yeah, she's, yeah.
I have two boys. They're brothers. I got them, when they were probably like, I don't know, a month old or something like that. Maybe less, 3 weeks, but they're 14. They just turned 14. So,
oh snap! Well, that's good. You didn't split. That's cool. You didn't split them up.
Yeah, there were three. We thought about taking the third one too, but it was just too much. And like at the time, I thought I was only a dog guy. I never had a cat, and then now I fell in love with them. I'm like, I'm all cats. I love them to death.
Oh yeah, they're the best.
Yeah. What was I going to ask you? So, going back to when you guys got signed. So, how did that relationship with Metal Blade come about? Because like that wasn't very long after the band kicked off that you guys were killing it.
It was a couple of years. They started together in like 2001 playing shows. And that was like, I graduated in 2001. We were all really young at the time, though. I think Trevor was the oldest at like 22 or 23 at the time we all started. But like most of us were like 18, 19, 20. I think Corey was 18 and the rest of us were 20 and 21 or something along those lines. But yeah, it was kind of like a Revenge of the Nerds thing. Like we reached out to like a whole bunch of people, and it was Metal Blade with at least the way I'm remembering it. I could be wrong because I'm 41, but I feel like we reached out to a bunch of labels first. Well, I say we, but I actually had no part in the reaching out to the labels, so I'll just put that right out there. I'm sure it was some combination of Brian and Trevor, but the proverbial we. Mm-hmm. They reached out to a bunch of labels, if I recall correctly, and Metal Blade was the first person to hit back with interest, and we ran with it, and they were kind of like, doing some stuff. They were like kind of like expanding because Metal Blade has been around forever. So, well, forever since 1983. But they were kind of doing some revamping, and they had just opened up Metal Blade in Japan, and I think they were looking for some young acts to kind of like freshen up a little bit because, like their roster was a lot of bands, like from like, came from the 80s and the early 90s and stuff. And, it seemed like around that time, like 2003, 2004, they got As I Lay Dying, Red Chord, they got us, so they started like expanding outside of just like traditional metal.
Right. So they picked you up, and then you recorded Unhallowed after you were signed and put that out? Or was that done before? Okay.
No. We sent them 3 songs that were going to end up on Unhallowed. I think we have it in like a little folder titled Metal Blade Demo. I'm going to pull it up and tell you which songs those were, because I can do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know Thy Horror Cosmic was in there. Hang on. Come on, hard drive. Yeah, it was a 3-song. We got to get this for posterity, if we're recording.
Open the blinds for this cat because he's crying.
No, they take care of that kitty. It is right here. Yeah, a lot. In like 15 years ago, I copied Corey's hard drive at the time. He had like 300 gigs of music on there. And back at that time, I was like, we were like just kind of getting, well, I think he was into it a lot harder than I was, but getting into like MIRC and like Demonoid, and well, Demonoid's more recent, but just like torrenting, so like ways to get stuff for free and just getting a ton of stuff. And he just had like a huge archive of stuff, and I remember downloading it all and putting it on a hard drive and just being like, what? Like most of it was like, I think I probably deleted a ton of stuff that I would like now. But I remember deleting like 150 gigs off there just because there was so much shit that I was just like, every single, like it was like just like a ton of like ill processed black metal, and like I'll call it more loose sounding death metal from the late 90s and early 90s and that kind of stuff. But now I love all that stuff. Where the hell is it? I didn't lose my train of thought. I'm still looking for that shit. Hang on. Oh, it's not in the B's, it's in the T's. You never know how you have it. If it's the, or do you do the comma? Right. Shit. There it is. Okay. Metal Blade Demo. Oh, where'd it go? Yeah. Elder Misanthropy, Thy Horror Cosmic, and Contagion.
That's so sick. You still have that. That's some cool history.
And I remember, I think they talked. I can't remember. I think they talked to Slagle, and he loved it, and he was just like, we didn't like. I don't remember him. I don't remember like Slagle, because the record label owner is always the executive producer. I don't remember him ever being like, this is to this or to that. Like he liked what we were doing.
Right. So just like, go for it.
Yeah, and so we kind of just like, it was crazy because we kind of just got thrust into like a whole bunch of tours like as soon as we signed. And it was like within a year we were already in Japan because Metal Blade was doing a bunch of expanding. So they opened up Metal Blade Japan in 2004. So we did 11 days in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, mostly like there were 2 other times that we went to Japan while I was in the band, and it was only for like a couple of days. So to go there for like 11 days was pretty wild. And like they had like internet cafes and like, you know, you could, I wasn't a cigarette smoker, but I still thought it was wild that you could like, you could buy a pack of cigarettes on the street and it would come with a lighter and a portable ashtray.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And I just thought that was so cool, but I never smoked cigarettes.
That is cool. I used to. I would have appreciated that.
Yeah.
But Japan's always ahead on everything.
Yeah, no, they were, yeah. And like, I remember in 2004, their phones had video cameras on them, and I was like, this is like the future. Like, I had, I think, a Flip Razor at the time or something stupid like that. I wasn't even at a point where I could use my own telephone in different countries.
Yeah, I never could. We did 2 European tours. And
in what year?
I was 07 and 08.
Yeah, it was still pretty archaic as far as
maybe
like
both 07. Yeah,
it was still pretty archaic at that point too. Like as far as like the technology of being able to just take your phone anywhere.
Yeah, I think you could pay for like a really expensive plan when you went, but we didn't do that. We were all poor. So it was just like I asked to use someone's phone to like call home or something whenever we could.
Yeah,
I'm still alive.
I definitely spent some stupid money calling home when we were away that I definitely regret spending.
Yeah. Did you guys notice like a big shift after you signed and then you got thrown on these tours, like in your shows? Was there a lot more people catching on?
So
or did you already have like a good following started?
I feel like they're like, well, so in the very, very, very first tour was with this band Set Ablaze from Philadelphia. I can't remember who else was on that tour. My mind doesn't go back that far. I just remember Set Ablaze because I still talk to some of them today. We did like the smallest tour that I could think of, and I have so many great memories on that tour. But yeah, we played some living rooms, played some VFW halls, and, you know, just some general hole in the wall venues and stuff. But they were always fun shows. Like, I feel like even when we had a show where only 40 people showed up, or I think there was even one show in Ohio where nobody showed up and now I will say it was like a blizzard going on. But yeah, like it was like in the beginning, it was like in like an area, like it wasn't in like a major city at all. And I don't think BDM was really had the pull yet. And so there was actually one show where nobody showed up because, you know, either like, you know, it was a low ticket sale as is. And also it was, you know, fucking blizzard storm out there. So we just had a band practice, you know.
Yeah.
We still plugged in and played. And
when you're that young though, it's like, this is still more fun than being at home and having a job.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember saying like, you know what, like I remember reminding myself like the worst possible day that I could have on tour is still better than the best possible day that I could have behind a cubicle.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So all of the sleepless van nights and all of the what did they used to call it? When there's 7 dudes in a van together, man salsa. Yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. And that's what it smelled like in there sometimes. Yep. And also Wawa sweet tea, jugs of pee, because, you know, our booking agent in the beginning, I can't remember his name, John something, we would have just the most unreal drives where like it would be like a full day of driving. Like we wouldn't be able to stay anywhere because we would have to drive. It would be like a 10 or 12 hour, you know, drive to the next show. So to be on time in case there were any problems, like we were basically leaving from the show that night.
Yeah. Drive through the night.
To drive through the night. So pee jugs were necessary.
Yeah. I feel like that always happened in Texas because you like play like Dallas, Austin, Houston, but then there's that big section of nothing till you get to El Paso, and like that's like the end of Texas.
Yeah, that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre part of Texas.
Where there's like signs that are like, there are no gas stations for the next 50 miles, so you better fill up now.
The reason it says that is because you don't want to go on Wrong Turn Alley.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, because there's definitely a set of spikes waiting for your tires.
Right.
And then the hills will have eyes.
Yeah, we my band Robinson broke down in Arizona, Yuma, which I think that was like the area that was kind of based on the hills have eyes and all that.
That's
and
amazing, but not.
We were there for like a week while our van was getting fixed. It was just totally shot. So we got this cheap hotel and sat in the hot tub, even though it was like 115 degrees out. But we're like, we're in a hot tub. We're in a band on tour. It's what we're supposed to do, right? Get some drinks and
totally
make ramen and peanut butter sandwiches from the grocery store.
Yeah, peanut butter sandwiches were definitely a thing. I remember it was a mortal sin if you mixed one drop of jelly into the peanut butter. An absolute mortal sin. I think I did it once and I got reamed out super hard. Like, don't ever fucking do that again, ever.
I'm a weirdo. I'm a peanut butter only guy. I never liked the jelly.
So now, personally, I'm a peanut butter only guy. But back then, I would have called you I would have been like, that's freaking blasphemous. I would have probably called you a witch, or a warlock of some kind.
That's how I feel about people who eat pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
Yeah, I think it's treason.
Yeah, I like to keep my savory and sweet separate, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree. There's times when it belongs, but so going forward through like the Miasma cycle, how big of a shift was that in like writing and touring and?
Well, once, so this is how I'm remembering it. Hopefully I'm remembering it correctly, but there was really no formula at first when Unhallowed was being, well, there was a formula when Unhallowed was being put together, but it was like the beginning, so everything was kind of still being figured out. But it got to a point where there was, how did it go? There would be 1.5 years of touring on the album, and then 6 months of writing, and that was the very, very strict schedule until COVID happened. Because if you look at the album release dates, they're all 2 years apart.
I did that today. I was going to say they were very on it for a 2-year cycle.
So that was Brian's cycle, was tour on the album for a year and a half and then start writing after 6 months, because then I think probably the thought process behind that is that you don't really give your music time to get stale.
Right. True. No, that's smart.
Which totally makes sense.
And I never, of the entire discography up till today, I never felt there was one record that was like, nah, that one wasn't as good. Like, that was just always continuously getting better and stronger.
I would have to agree with that. I think after I left, I'll be honest, I didn't care about what they were doing. I didn't follow them. There was no reason for me to. And, I didn't make the greatest choices towards the end of my career with BDM. So we weren't on the greatest terms when I left the band. Unfortunately, I'm very thankful that over the years, I've been able to, apologize for some of the You better chill, kitty. I've been able to apologize for some of the inconveniences that I've caused, and that meant a lot to me to be able to do that. But yeah, it's definitely, and I've gone to some of their shows and to support them, now.
Yeah, I was going to ask why you left the band, if you're okay to talk about that a little bit.
So, yeah, I'm okay to talk about that. I'm not super proud of it. I think some people might think it was because of a girl. It wasn't. I was dating somebody at the time who didn't really like what I was doing, and made it kind of a little bit difficult for me to, have a good time while I was away. Mm-hmm. And that's where my comment about spending stupid money to call home came from, is while I was with this girl, I felt like I needed to constantly call home, and that definitely affected my relationship with the guys, even though they introduced me to her. So, go figure. But I'm not a ladies guy. I count all the girlfriends I've had on one fucking hand. I didn't hang out with chicks and stuff. Like, when I was on tour, it was like video games, guitar, and weed. That was it. I didn't go any further than that. I think I did do mushrooms a couple of times. But yeah, it didn't go any further than that. I did drink a few times, but it just, it didn't,
Wasn't the party guy.
it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. But yeah, so anyway, getting back to that, my relationship with the guys at the time was kind of declining because I was probably a lot of times spending, a ton of time on the phone with this chick trying to like, I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but anyway, so that was definitely a factor. Also, my dad's health was declining. My mom's mom was like in her late 90s. And so there was kind of just a lot of stuff going on at once. I know my girlfriend at the time asked me a ton of times to leave the band, but I would always tell her, this is who I am. Like, you got with me knowing that I'm a touring musician. Like, that's not how this is going to go down. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it got to the point where it was like, my relationship with the guys it got to the point where it was a bit toxic, and, but I never let it affect the music. I always showed up for load in. I showed up for load out. I was there and had a blast playing live, but I definitely probably, I would say I destroyed our relationship while I was still in the band because I spent so much time. But like, I never had girlfriends and stuff in high school. I was a nerdy fat kid with curly hair and thick ass bifocal lenses. Like, I didn't have no game, none of that shit. And I still had the fro up until 2006. So I was like, on Ozzfest, I still had the fro. Okay, you can go. But yeah, I was just, I got blinded. We'll just say that. And it definitely affected my relationship with the guys. And I'm very, 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 very remorseful for that. I definitely wish that I had a clearer mind at the time so that I could have made better decisions towards the end of my career with BDM. This is all stuff that I was able to say to their faces, and it was important for me to say that because I did feel like quite a bit of a shit ass for a number of years, because I didn't like how it ended, and even now, like, I just want friendship. There's nothing more that I want from those guys. It's just like, we live close to each other. Like, I would love to just be friends. Like, that's, and when Trevor passed away in 2022, I won't lie, like, that definitely caused me to start listening to the band again. And, I mean, it had probably been 10 years since him and I talked, because, we weren't in a band together. He was doing his thing there. We did have a few interactions on Instagram, like, oh, well, maybe when you come through one time, we should burn one, and, we could play some vintage video games. And, there was some friendly interactions. And then, of course, a ton of good fucking memories from the 6.5 years that I spent with the group. Right. So when I read that news, it didn't even hit me right away because I was I was in shock for a second. Like, and I remember I was working for Rocket Mortgage at the time doing tech support, and I just I'm even getting a little bit tingly. Like, my skin's I'm even getting a little tingly right now just talking about it. Like, I went completely fucking pale. Like, I couldn't think. It was like everything came to a halt, like, all at once. And I just started thinking about, like, 6 years of memories just started flooding my brain because I didn't have a reason to think about any of them, because I wasn't in the group. I wasn't part of anything that they were doing. So, I was doing other stuff with my life. But when he passed, it just was a floodgate was open, and I was just reminded of so much stuff. And then I got asked to go to the memorial, and that's kind of when it was I was I'm going to use this opportunity since I'm around these guys to tell them how freaking sorry I am for any inconvenience I caused. And that felt good. It did. It really felt good because I didn't feel good about how I left the band. And, but I did still stand by my decision to leave because my mom's mom passed away. Like, she started declining rapidly shortly after my dad died. And I just felt like I needed to be at home. So it wasn't it was a combination of my declining relationship with the group because of my idiot decisions to stay with a toxic lady, on top of the fact that my family life was crumbling because people were dying left and right. It just kind of was too much for me to handle at the time.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. Like, touring and keeping that lifestyle when, at least, I don't know back then, but like you're not making much money, at least when you're starting out. To maintain that, even when things are going well, is tough. So when you have all these other things, pulling you, and you're also young, so you don't make the best decisions, like, it's totally understandable,
Yeah, totally. And I think just, as human beings, we're going to make mistakes, but so I try not to judge people on mistakes they've made, but more, if I'm going to judge someone, I'd rather judge them on how they've handled themselves afterwards. Right. Like, did you learn from it? Are you holding yourself accountable? Because, we all are going to fuck up. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that was important to me for a really long time, and rightfully so. I don't think anybody really wanted to hear that from me for a really long time, and and I understood that, and I stayed away, and I even stopped playing in C standard tuning, just to get away from that, because I was just like, what, like, I just, I'm like, I didn't feel like I should. And actually, my wife has been a pretty big help for that. Like, she's just like, well, like, their sound definitely changed after you left the group. So, like, you definitely had to have some, even if you didn't write all the music, or even if you didn't write a bunch of the music, like, you still had an effect on how they sounded while you were in the group, because it started to change after you weren't in the group. And so I kind of started to realize, like, maybe it is okay for me to play like this. And so I've been playing in C a little bit, and I freaking love that tuning. It sounds awesome. And I haven't played in it for so many years, and and then I kind of just, like, have avoided being in the social media eye for a long time, because I was just like, like, I don't want them to I never wanted anybody to feel like I was trying to, like, ride on the coattails or anything, like. But now I'm just remembering, I'm just, like, honestly just having, like, a walk down memory lane, because it's it's just, like, everything that's happened in the last 4 years with the group, and I can't, like, it was an emotional roller coaster for me, so I can't even imagine how it was for them. But yeah, I've started, after I started relearning the material, and spending time playing it, and teaching some other folks some of the riffs and solos and stuff, and it's kind of, like, made me realize, like, I need to get back into music, like, I need to start playing more, and and then it was like, you guys reached out to me and you wanted me to do the friggin' Statutory Ape solo, and I was, like, freaking honored, because that's one of my favorite solos to play live. It made me feel like a guitar hero. Right. And that was I think one thing that I don't want to forget to say this, one thing that really I feel like was helpful in my solo writing was that I had the guys there while I was writing it. So, like, I mean, it was me coming up with the notes, but sometimes, like, Trevor or Brian would be like, no, go up towards this end, or, like, no, don't end on that note, let's end on a higher note. And we would collaborate through it. And I think that created a final product that everybody was happy with. And so, right. So I actually looked at that as a positive thing, having them there to be like, well, no, like, this, oh yeah, this sounds good. And there were plenty of moments where it was like, oh yeah, that sounds great, let's use that. But there were definitely some moments, more so in Nocturnal, because that's when like, it was like, we wanted, we had put out Miasma, which I felt like was, a pretty big step up. I'll look at, like, Unhallowed was Nintendo, and then Miasma was definitely Super Nintendo. We went to 16-bit graphics. And then Miasma was definitely PlayStation. I just, that's just the way it was. We were finally on CD-ROM, you know what I mean? And we're like, I feel like the riff writing got to the point where it was like, we would actually spend time, like, like Brian would come up with these riffs that I for sure could not play right off the bat. Like, I would have to spend time learning these riffs. And I remember when he came with the, even during Miasma, like, when he started, because Brian wrote the entire Statutory Ape song and just brought it to practice. And I remember, like, the beginning riff, because it skips strings a bunch. I was like, dude, fuck you. Like, this is so hard. Like, yeah. Like, I couldn't do that at first. And so, like, I had to spend, like, an obscene amount of time training my hands to string skip cleanly.
Yeah, string skipping is no joke.
Especially, I think that song's at 218.
Oh, damn, yeah.
2/6. So, I mean, like, we're doing, like, 16th notes and stuff at, above 200 BPMs. It was somewhere between 214 and 218. But yeah, I remember some of the riffs he would come to practice with. I was just like, fuck, like, you're gonna give me some time. And we would all take our time to do it.
Back on, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but just like, I feel like that kind of approach to riff writing, like writing a riff that's maybe a little outside of your means and then taking the time to teach yourself, well, that's how you progress. That's how you get better. And that's why I have such a hard fucking time playing Nocturnal songs today. Even the solos, like we would go through and write the solos a bar at a time, like a measure at a time. So it would be like, we'd be like, well, how does this measure flow into this measure? Like, we'll make sure this, and like we really, really went in and like scrutinized everything. And I think that that's why the album came out the way it did.
Yeah. And dude, that really shows for sure. What I was going to say was back on the different tunings thing, unless you're a guitar player, you don't understand like how much each different tuning means to you, and they each have their own personality. So when you said like, I didn't want to feel like playing in C standard anymore, like I totally got it right away. Like, yeah.
I felt like I shouldn't though. Like I was just like, I was like, no, I shouldn't be playing in C, because what's going to happen is it's going to sound like BDM, because I spent 6 years playing those riffs. So basically anything that I came up with ended up saying, and I even, Corey and I had put together a project after BDM because I still wanted to play metal. I think it was like a year and a half after I wasn't in the band anymore. I was like, I wanted to still play music, of course. And I remember I sent like 3 or 4 songs. It was 2 songs. I sent 2 songs to the publicist, Kelly, of Metal Blade at the time, just to see what she thought of them. And she was just like, yeah, this sounds too much like BDM. You're not going to do nothing with this. And I was like, fuck. It was like a total spirit killer. And Kelly's a sweetheart. I fucking love her. And even to this day, like if we ever have an interaction, it's always a pleasant one. And I hope she doesn't see that. Well, if she sees this, we can laugh about it another time. But yeah, it was like totally crushed me. And I was like, fuck, well, I guess I have to learn how to play guitar differently, because I don't know how to. And so I started like playing not metal, because I didn't know how to do metal and not sound like that.
Right. It's ingrained in you.
It was. And so it's only up until like the last year where I've been like, you know what? Like, fuck it. Like, it's been long enough now where I should start playing like that again, because it's like a big part of where I came up as a guitar player. And, and so, also I've been working with this band Dead Squad. Are you familiar with them?
No.
So they're a death metal band from Indonesia. And we met them in 2007 when BDM played in Jakarta when we were touring on Nocturnal. And I don't think they played the show, because I think the first record that they put out was in 2009. But I know they were at the show, and we met them at that point. And we've kept in touch all these years. And one day I was just like, what's up? Do you want to like jam some music? Like, cause they're sick, and like he always supports like when my wife and I will post a little cover that we do when we have time, when our kids aren't fucking jungle gymming the whole house. We'll come up and do a cover or this or that, and just something that's easy that we can do in our spare time. And, cause a lot of times we don't have the time to put in complete thought into doing something that's original, because, we're still trying to figure out our new normal of being double parents. But yeah, so I like basically just like sent them a shitty webcam video of me jamming to a random deathcore track on YouTube. There's this guy, Max Backing Track, on YouTube, and he's got all these different, like in the vein of drum tracks, and they all sound awesome. And he's got like Decapitated and Deicide and like all these bands that I love, and he'll have drum tracks, and then it'll all be color coded, so it'll show you like while you're listening to it, like here's the verse and then it'll have like the little meter moving, so you know where you're at in the song.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really sick. That's like how I've been jamming lately, is I'll just go to one of his tracks, and then when I come up with a riff, I'll like write it myself. But yeah, so wait, where are we going? Okay, one more train.
You were talking about the band in Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I sent them a 2-minute shitty quality webcam video of me playing to this deathcore track. He took it and wrote another guitar part to it, and their drummer wrote drums to it. I sent it with the drums the way I had it, but he must have used Moises to extract my guitar from it or whatever. And he sends this back to me, and that's the video on my Instagram right now, the black and white video with me jam.
I saw that. Okay, yeah.
So that's just that 2-minute video. So I sent that to them. He wrote another guitar part to it. I was tuned in G sharp. It was a 7-string tuned to C sharp with a low G sharp. Just because. And because I knew that they tuned low, but I didn't know what they tuned in. They actually tune a half step lower than that. He's in C with a low G.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, it's much lower than anything I've ever played. And so he sends me back this, and then he's like, well, let's do an Instagram collaboration. And so they posted on Instagram, and I was blown away to see it get 100K views, because I haven't been a part of anything, music wise in the last 10 years that's gotten that kind of, attention. And so then he takes that and does a little rearranging, and he sends me a 3-minute song. And he goes, okay, well, take this, and if you want to put any final touches on it, send it back. And so I took it and I changed a couple of the transitions, but I kept his arrangement because I really liked it. I changed a couple of transitions and added a few little harmonies in there that weren't there before. And then I added a solo and I sent it back. And so their guitar player, so Stevie is the main guitar player. He's like the rhythm guitar player. And then their lead guitar player, Karis. So I knew he was good. Like, I already knew he was good, but we're doing the song that I'm working on them with, like, we have a dueling solo part. And when they sent me back his solo, I was like, this dude he fucking shreds. He's so good. And he's got just such, but we have such a contrasting style that I love it, because, like, I'm very, very straightforward, scale oriented, changing positions and stuff. And he's got a very, like, almost like jumpy, like, very, like, nimble playing style. And, like, it almost kind of reminded me a bit of Brandon Ellis, like, just a little bit. Like, he's very, like, 80s shredder and oriented and super, super good. Like, I'm just, like, blown away by this guy. And so they're like, I was already kind of stoked to work with him because I've known him for so long, and, it would be cool to get a little exposure musically, to work with some people that are doing stuff. And I had but every single thing that goes back and forth is making me, like, smile harder and harder, because I'm just like, they're like really professional musicians. I just, like, he, like, literally learned my guitar part, wrote a guitar part to it, sent it back. It like, the song realization happened, like, within, like, 3 transactions. It was really fast. Like, I sent him 2 minutes. He sent me back 3 minutes. I sent him back 3 minutes finalized with a solo. He sent me back 3 minutes with another solo added to it. Now they're putting bass and vocals on it. Boom. Like, I've
so you guys
never
are gonna release it?
I asked to make sure it was okay to talk about this. I'm gonna be featured on their new album. Like, we're writing a song, like, for their newer album.
Sick. That's awesome, man.
So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about working with them. I'm excited about doing music in general again. And I just feel like,
what was their band name again? It was Dead
Squad.
Dead Squad. Okay. Yeah, everybody check them out.
Yeah, they're sick. They are fucking sick. Like, each member is, like, ridiculous, like, in their own right. Like, I always knew about them, but I'll admit that I didn't really spend a lot of time just going into their catalog, because I wasn't really I just for the longest time haven't been a death metal guy. Like, I'll play it, but I just never really found myself listening to it. And now, like, all I want to listen to is, like, brutal death metal lately.
Yeah, it's funny how you go through those phases. Like, I love playing heavy music, but I won't listen to it very much unless I'm, like, trying to get inspired or
totally. And now I'm back to, like, listening to, like, Gorgasm and Deeds of Flesh, and, like, and, like, I even like some Infant Annihilator stuff, like, before it gets, like, so, like, when. So I hope I don't piss anybody off, but when the kicks go above 300 BPMs and it just sounds like a letter, it makes me giggle.
Yeah,
it makes me giggle. I can't help it. But I feel like that guitar player in that band is criminally underrated, because he is. I was watching some playthroughs, and the drummer too. Like, those people, like, they can play. Like, so even though, like, when you go that fast, it's, like, maybe not my personal taste, they have enough riffs in their repertoire. Like, I've started to realize that I like deathcore, but more death metal leading deathcore. I don't find myself enjoying deathcore that's, like, kind of, like, slammy and I like it to be at least a little bit death metal inspired, like I like Ingested, and I like what's that other one, Shadow of Intent, and Die Art is Murder. I think they're fucking sick. So I've started to I guess, like, deathcore is kind of like the new metal.
Yeah, you could say that
in a sense. So it's like not cool to like it if you're like an elite metalhead, but I don't really give a fuck about any of that. I just like what sounds good to my ear. Like
yeah, if it's fun, it's fun. You're enjoying yourself, whatever. Like I leave all the subgenres and the
like
bickering about that to the young kids.
I like Lorna Shore. I especially like Lorna Shore because I love to read what people have to say about them because the opinions are so hilarious. I don't have anything to say. I think they're talented musicians. I mean, maybe at times I feel like there could be a little bit too much synthy stuff for me, but it works for them, and their riffs are fucking quick as shit. That Austin on drums is a freaking mastermind. Like the proof is in the pudding. Like they can do it. Like so you can't really hate on them if they're out there doing it live.
Oh, they're killing it. Yeah, they were one of the first bands I heard when I started paying attention again. They popped up and I was like, holy shit.
They're very talented, and I love to see what the old school metalheads have to say about it. They're like so angry about Lorna Shore. Like they spawned all these bands that are doing like, vocal Olympics, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what it is. It's vocal Olympics. Like you're training your vocal cords to do things that they're not meant to do.
Yeah. And it's very impressive. And I understand the argument of like, well, before you were just yelling to yell because you were angry and that's what it was. And now you're just trying to make funny noises. And it's like, it's not what the music was about then. But it's like, but that's what they're doing if they want to do it,
I didn't like death metal getting into it when I joined BDM. I thought the vocals were really stupid. Like for the longest time, I didn't even know any of Trevor's vocals. But but then I started to realize that the vocalist in a metal band is just another instrument.
Yeah, it's another percussive instrument.
It's another percussive instrument to add to, I guess, the brutality level, like to add to the anger level, to add to the delivery of the riffs. When I looked at it like that, then that really opened up my eyes to a ton of different music because, the vocals are at the forefront. So if you don't like the vocals, you're probably not going to it's going to be tough to listen to the music.
As long as like the patterns are catchy, if it's just boring, because I almost look at it like screaming vocals like rap. Like there's no melody, it's just supposed to be catchy, and like the pattern should hook you, like instead of the melody, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys were the first band that like really connected with me in that style, and like because I'd heard In Flames a little bit, At the Gates, whatever, but like the intensity of what you guys were doing mixed with Trevor's vocals, his patterns, like it just connected with me right away, and I fucking loved it. And still to this day, I don't listen to a ton of stuff outside of that, but I love every BDM record.
He was an English major in college.
I can tell.
that should be no surprise to anybody.
Absolutely mind-blowing lyrics.
When I would read the lyrics. Because I'll be honest, for a long time it was like I can't really concentrate on what Trevor's saying because I got to concentrate on playing these fucking guitar parts good. I can't be, and there's definitely some parts where I started to join in gang vocal style when I got more comfortable. But yeah, for the longest time, like I would only know little bits and pieces of what Trevor was singing because I didn't have time to. That wasn't in my mind space what Trevor was saying. But yeah, I mean, he was an English major, like he. I remember in the beginning, and I even commented that on our video that we did recently for a tribute to him. Everyone thought we had two vocalists.
Yeah.
Like everyone thought we had two vocalists and that we were an emo band because we had short hair. Because back then, if you didn't look metal, you couldn't be metal.
Right.
It wasn't, you had to have gauntlets and face paint, or you had to have black t-shirts and khaki. Or not khaki, camo shorts. Camo. Yeah, you right. If you didn't have if you weren't on the death metal side with the camo shorts and the extra large T-shirt, you were on the gauntlet and tight pants and boots side. And if you were somewhere in the middle, you weren't metal.
Yeah.
So I think that probably had a hand in maybe curiosity about us because we did not sound anything like we looked.
Yeah. I think that was another reason too, because you were a new band and we were similar in age. You guys were a little bit older, but you looked like us, and it was like, oh, like these are guys that aren't like. Because I always thought the gauntlets and shit was silly, and I was like, oh, these are just guys like us, but they're playing insanely awesome, fast metal, and I for once loved the vocals. So like it just, I don't know, I loved it.
Well, that's awesome. It's like one of us.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. So Miasma hit 118 on the Billboard 200, and Nocturnal hit 72.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. And
was your mind fucking blown or what?
When we were on the Billboard charts. Well, so I don't know if at the time I was fully able to grasp, because I mean I was still like living in my mom's basement and living out of a suitcase and stuff. So it was really cool to top the Billboard charts, but I think it did, you know what I mean? It was like, didn't really change anything for our lifestyle. So we weren't like, but yeah, I mean,
it's
like,
not like you get a paycheck as soon as you hear that.
But no, but I remember seeing like, it was just a trip just to see metal on there, let alone for us to be on there.
Yeah. For that style, especially like that wasn't too far removed from the new metal when that was all in the charts and stuff.
I think
like
that
to hear
might
something
even
like
be,
this, like
that might even be on the hype sticker. I have in my, I managed to keep, because back when I was with the band, whenever I would have band merch, I was happy to give it to any of my friends, not thinking that I would fucking cherish it later on, you know. But I do have one original pressing of each album on CD with the hype sticker still, that I was on. And I think it even says on the Miasma one, I think it even says that it was on the Billboard charts. And CSI, and you know what? Hang on a sec. Right here.
Let's see it.
Right here. So
it's so cool.
It says melodic, maniacal, merciless, and true. The Black Dahlia Murder are the band to watch in 2005, Metal Maniacs. Okay, so it has nothing to do with Billboard, but we got a Metal Maniacs quote in there. And I thought there was something about Ozzfest because it was like, that was like the year we were on Ozzfest too, was 2005.
What was Ozzfest like? Ozzfest
was a blur of outside parking lots that turned into venues. And then if you were with somebody that had a red pass, because we got the silver passes, if you had a red pass, you could go into the first stage area. They still had a backstage area for us as well, and like a common eating area and stuff, because it was all at big amphitheaters. But it was a very, very unique experience. But the setup was like, there were, I think, 9 bands that paid to play a lot, like $90,000 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, but you got exposure. But like, okay, we were on tour with Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, and you know what I mean? So it's like, so that there were days where we played to like 20 or 30,000 people. This band from Michigan that just put out their second record that's trying to make it out there.
Yeah.
We were like, I remember one day in LA, I think we played to like 28,000 people.
Holy shit.
But it was a rigorous schedule because the 9 bands that paid to play were on rotating slots. So you would play a different slot every day between the hours of 9:45 a.m. and 12:45 p.m. So they would fit.
Wow.
Or they were 20-minute sets with 5-minute set changes. Everything was on wheels. So after you were done, they would just push you down a ramp, like your whole shit, everything.
Holy shit. You
would just walk off with your whole shit. Drum set, everything would just get shoved to the side like fucking Legos with wheels on them. And everybody in the backstage area started buying those stupid little motorbikes with batteries in them. So everybody had to have one of those. So
you guys were on a permanent schedule that didn't shift.
No, we shifted. There were some mornings that I played at 9:45 a.m.
Oh, so okay. I thought you were above that.
No.
Okay.
No. So there was the 9 bands that paid to play. It was like us and Soilwork and fuck. I don't know. I can't remember. I know it was us and Soilwork, and there was a couple of, I can't, It Dies Today. Shit. I can't remember anymore. But we shared a bus with It Dies Today. That's why I remember that they were on it. And they were rotating as well. But yeah, so, and then there was this band, there was this other band that won some kind of contest, and they got the 1 p.m. slot, like because they won a contest. Something with 40 in the title. The number 40 not spelled out, but I can't remember. Cannot remember. And then there was like, then it was like Killswitch Engage and In Flame. And then I think like Killswitch Engage headlined the stage that we were on.
Mm-hmm.
Man, wow. I should remember this a little bit better, but I don't. But then again, that was 20 years ago.
That was what year?
2005.
2005.
I know that Mudvayne was on it. I know Mudvayne was on there. Rob Zombie was on there. It was a trip. I know that
I only went to one Ozzfest. I think it was 2003 or 4, though. I can't remember, or maybe earlier than that.
But I will say, walking onto the stage that they put together and hearing my first note through this fucking monster sound system, that's something that there is nothing else that's like that. There's nothing there's nothing like playing one note by yourself at arena volume. Nothing. Nothing like
There's
it.
So much power in your hands.
One chug is all it takes, and my fucking pants were soiled. That was it. I was so excited. It was just like the coolest thing ever to walk out there, and there's like so much adrenaline. And you're only playing 5 songs, so you got to fucking bust your ass. There was no talking in between, nothing, just fucking go. Pop, 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 go. Pop, 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 go. Sometimes we even just ring out into the next song. And then it was after that, it was then we would go to like the booths, like the FYE booth and the Jaeger booth, and we would do signings there. And I can remember bitching about it because I'm like, we got to go all these fucking signings afterwards. Like I've been up since 9 a.m. I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. And then our manager EJ's like, this is the life you chose. Now fucking lead it. And I was like, I was just like, and so then we started talking like Ludo from shit. With David Bowie. Come on, help me out, dude. Damn, why can't I do it? The fucking. Oh man, I'm gonna get killed by Eric because the Labyrinth. Thank God.
Oh yeah, I
Thank
knew that.
God.
I'm actually working on something like that
was
for work.
Bad. That was
the
bad.
Labyrinth live show.
So we started being like, "This is the life you lead, the life you chose." And so that's a funny little memory. But I remember being like, well, he's not wrong.
Yeah, so you guys paid to be on that. Did the label pay for that?
Yes, and we paid them back. I think we even were able to pay them back with the tour afterwards, because the tour right afterwards, now I don't remember, I know we definitely paid them back. I don't know how long it took, but we definitely paid them back. The tour afterwards was the Hawaiian Shirt Tour with Cephalic Carnage and Between the Buried and Me.
Oh.
Does that sound right? I think it does. We'll go with that. It might be wrong, but I know we toured with them. Was it Between the Buried? Because I know that Cephalic Carnage was on there. And that was like our first like headlining run after Ozzfest to see if being on Ozzfest helped. And we had like a bunch of sold out shows on that tour.
Oh, so it did.
And so it did help. Yeah. And we wore Hawaiian shirts every night and threw beach balls into the crowd, Black Dahlia Beach Party Tour. And I remember at the end of the tour, my Hawaiian shirt could stand on its own.
Yep. We used to take our shirts after the show. We had a show shirt, so we didn't have to do laundry, and you only wore that at shows, but we would clamp it in the back window of the van, and it would just blow in the wind and dry out. But so disgusting.
Yeah, Trevor and Shannon both did that. Shannon had... obviously so, because he's the one that's physically exerting himself more than anyone else besides Trevor.
No shit.
But yeah, those I was like, just tie those things on the back of the fucking like it was filth. I lost some of my favorite shirts too. That way they would just blow off. I think he used to tie them to the rear view mirror on the passenger side or something like that. And you just hear it fucking flapping against the van all wet and shit.
Oh man, the things you come up with on the road to like when you don't have someone doing your laundry and shit.
Going back to the Wawa sweet tea pee bottles, we definitely stopped doing that after Trevor drank his own pee. Because sweet tea looks a lot like pee.
Mm-hmm. Well, Joe drank his own pee on purpose.
Well, that's unfortunate for everyone involved.
We used to keep Gatorade bottles. Those were our pee bottles in the van.
Gatorade looks like pee?
But no, I mean, it doesn't.
No, you said it didn't matter because he did it on purpose. That's right.
Oh, that was a different thing anyway. You guys ever play Buffalo, the drinking game?
No.
We learned it from Heavy Heavy Low Low, but it's just a simple drinking game where when you're drinking, you have to keep your drink in your left hand all the time because most people are right-handed and you'll fuck it up, right? So if you're caught with it in your right hand, you have to chug it immediately. And like, I think you kneel down maybe or whatever. Maybe I'm confusing the games, but if you don't, there was like punishment or whatever. But it's called Buffalo. Yeah.
Talk about punishment.
I think you would, and the singer of Alisana was just on here. We were talking about this. He actually has a buffalo tattoo on his left hand from this drinking game, now sober. But you would like link arms and you would get like kicked in the back of your legs or something. Like if you would refuse to chug your drink. But yeah, it was something
sounds like
that.
That sounds like an early 2000s kind of thing, like when hazing was still a thing.
Yep.
Wow.
And then he did explain there was an upgrade to it, like called Bison or something. I never got that deep into it, but always remember Buffalo. But the Joe drinking his own pee story, I think he got buffaloed with his own pee in his hand because he had just peed in a bottle and someone called Buffalo and it was in his right hand. So he just goes, okay, and he just drinks his own pee. But that's Joe.
All right. I try not to pass judgment on people, because you just never know what someone's going through, but I don't feel like there's a lot of explanations that could really be had for that.
No, he's just always down for
if you're in the desert and you don't have access to water, sure, drink your own pee because you're going to die otherwise. Right. But
some Bear Grylls shit.
If you've got access to even just tap water, there's really no reason. I don't know that I would even laugh because like I've accidentally drinking my own pee before and there's nothing funny about it, like at all. Like it's like dries your throat out instantly. You drank pee because you feel different. It makes you feel different. You don't, because it's not something you would normally drink. So you instantly know that when that liquid hits your tongue that something's not right.
I can't say that I ever have. I don't think. Maybe on accident if I picked up a beer bottle. But yeah.
Good for you. I'm really happy to hear that for you. But yeah, I definitely did on accident. I really
don't want to know what that's like, but that's good to know.
It's not. I don't even know if it's good to know. It's just. It's not a good experience for anyone. It's very bad.
So of those three records, what is a song or a riff that you wish got more attention that kind of goes under the radar?
I feel like I definitely. I don't know. I mean, when I was in the only songs that we weren't really playing, like the songs that we weren't really playing when I was touring with them were like, we didn't play like Dave Goes to Hollywood. I think there was one show we played Dave Goes to Hollywood. So I've actually been thinking about revisiting that song just because it was, if I remember, it was basically just like kind of like a filler song. Like we needed one more song to finish the album and it was kind of like more of a last minute thing. And I wrote some riffs in that song now that I remember. But yeah, it was. I think I might have written what I think I might have wrote a riff in that song. I can't remember, but it feels like it's possible. But yeah, I would say I don't know. That's a tough call because I've been playing through this BDM jam list and it's just really really fun. It's hard to think about which one. I would say I think when it was more fresh that I wasn't in the band, I had a lot of people talking to me about Novelty Crosses. Mm-hmm. That was a song that I definitely enjoyed playing live. I don't know. I can't remember how many times we played it, but I always thought like that was, I think that might, I can't remember.
That's on Miasma, right?
Yeah. I can't remember if there are other songs that have tempo changes like intentionally. I don't think there are. Yeah. I think that's one of the only songs that has a tempo change. But yeah, like it's just kind of cool, like the way it comes in. It's kind of like almost makes me think of like Hate Eternal a little bit. Like that's my riff. That's my that intro riff. I wrote that intro riff, I think. I'm a little hazy. Some I remember well, others I feel like I'm remembering kind of just as we talk, but I could be wrong. And then it kind of just immediately like, and it just like immediately comes in like, like I kind of like, I like that song. For me, I like that song a lot because it sounds like it's going to go one direction and then it completely doesn't go in that direction at all.
Yeah. And when you can make that work, it's so satisfying to listen to. And
so, yeah, I feel like I need to listen to that song a bit more, but yeah. after I honestly, like, if I think about it now, like since 2022, like I've been kind of listening to BDM stuff as comfort food. Like when Servitude came out, I probably listened to it like an obscene amount of times, just because like I can't say that it didn't affect me like greatly. Like it's just, you know, like even though there was such a gap between us talking, like, you still spend 6 years of your life in a van with somebody, like, right. You know, there's still history there, and I still, like, you know, there's still love in my heart for those guys always. So, you know, it came as a complete shock and, you know, crazy blow, like for me out of left field, because
especially when you're not even thinking about them.
Right. And I exactly. And it had been long enough where I'm just living my life doing my own thing and they're doing their thing. And, you know, we're coexisting, or, you know, we're existing on separate planes. And then, you know, a horrible, tragic event kind of brings us all together, you know, unexpectedly. And it kind of like I find myself listening to BDM quite often. Unhallowed specifically, because for me, those were some of my favorite memories, is being on tour in the beginning and everything being super fresh and doing everything for the first time and so exciting, and just like not really knowing what exactly we're doing. We're just having a fucking killer time. We're all buds, you know, hanging out, playing Nintendo.
Simpler times.
You know, watching VHS, you know, fucking watching Real Genius on VHS in the van with Val Kilmer. Oh yeah, that was one of my favorites. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed the Miasma process as well. And I enjoyed the Nocturnal process too. That was probably, like, to record, that was probably my favorite. That was my favorite thing that I've ever been a part of recording. And working with Eric Rachel was phenomenal. He was like probably the coolest engineer on the planet. Like when you would like nail something, or when you would like really, really give it your all, like he would like call that out. Like, and I don't think even he realized like how awesome that was when you're recording something that might even be a tiny bit outside of your ability at the time, because you're still like getting, you know, because I mean, like a lot of those Nocturnal riffs are very intricate, and they don't sit still ever. You're not really staying put anywhere. So, just like it was and I think that's like we had such a good experience mixing with him with Miasma that we're like, we're coming back here to record for the next record. And that was like decided 2 years before the fact. Like, we're coming back here to record.
No, Nocturnal sounds so good. I listened to that one probably twice today. I was going through each one.
I need to listen to it a bit more. And honestly, like, that album kind of gets me a little bit more emotional than the other ones. And even when I was doing just doing the playthrough of the Statutory Ape solo for the video, when I would like really lock in and like catch myself like smiling, like I would start crying.
Yeah.
Like it would just, I would just be like this super huge rush where like I could like feel it all over my body, and I would just stop playing. I just couldn't play anymore because like emotion just would like take over. And I thought about it a lot, because it's like, you know, I like, obviously, like, that's, you know, it's something that's really sad that's going to affect you. But like, I would remember, like, you know, playing these songs for the first times live and like just nailing the solo live, and everybody would look over at me and smile. And it was just like those little memories would like pop up, and I would just like feel my chest start heaving. Like I could just like, and we would just like, it just, you know, like, all those
times you played it live, all those tours.
I have
every night.
Such a deep love for those guys. Like, I didn't quit the band because of any of those guys. Like, they are all very special to me. Like, I love each and every one of them with all of my heart. Like, I was just in a really fucked up spot, partially that I got myself in, and partially that I was thrust in. And I'll forever wish that I made better decisions, you know, upon my exit. But, it's honestly like, and you want to know what's really odd is that, well, not odd, but this is the first, I've had other people reach out to me to do interviews and stuff. But I don't know any of them. Like, it's just like, and so when you asked me, I was kind of like, well, yeah, you know, like we have a history, like, you know, like, you know, be it a long ago history, and, you know, we might as well just be reintroducing ourselves for the first time again.
Pretty much. I think you and I actually only met one time, because when you did, I think you guys toured with From a Second Story Window, a short stint.
Yeah, but there was a short stint.
but that was before me. So when I joined, I think we only played Robot Mosh Fest together when you guys headlined in Wisconsin.
And I don't even remember that. So there's that too. Like,
yeah, I only really remember meeting Trevor that day, I think. So
it was just, but because like, you know, our bands had history and it was just kind of like, you know, and we just worked on something together. So I got to chat with you for a bit, you know, like, cause I'm like, of course, like every story has like some less than desirable parts of it, but there's so many good things and good memories that I have that the conversation would already go too long before I would have time to talk about anything that was less than desirable. And honestly, I don't feel the need to talk about anything that was less than desirable, whether it was caused by me or caused by somebody else, because that's a toxic way to live. Like, it's just, I would rather, you know, grow and learn from things that I did to inconvenience people or things that I did that were less than smart. And hope, you know, and just hope that moving forward that, you know, you just learn, grow as a person. Like, I love those dudes tremendously. I wish them nothing, you know, but success. Like, it's been, you know, heartening. It's been very heartening to see them keep going, because I honestly thought that it was going to be the end. Right, to be perfectly honest, and I'm sure they probably did at first too, even, you know, because that's not
the decisions they made were, you know, the only way to go forward. I think
I agree because, you know, and that was even when there were band member changes while I was still in the group, it was always like, well, we have to be really careful of who we select, because got to make sure they want to be here. You got to make sure they're about that life, and you have to make sure that you can get along with them, because about to spend
so many factors
stupid amount of time with them, and you're basically like starting a relationship with somebody, like, you know, like, so like you become almost like kind of like an extended family. And when you're on tour all the time, like, you can't really make any relationships at home because nobody ever fucking sees you. So all your relationships are these broken up, you know, stints of people that you spend like a month at a time with, and then you go back to your states and don't really talk other than texts and DMs and whatever. And then when you meet back up, and you're like, it's just like it never stopped. You just pick right back up where you left off. And but yeah, I haven't talked about anything BDM related in probably like, I don't know, 17 years, 15, you know, like, wow. This is the first time I've gotten on and talked, but probably this is the first time I've ever felt comfortable to get on and talk, because I've gotten a chance to say some of the things that I've really wanted to say, and because I feel more connected to the music, because I've been able to kind of get some of that stuff off my chest, and tragedy kind of connects us to things in a weird way, you know, and I don't, you know, it's tough for me even now. Like, you know, I still, like, I don't think we ever get over this kind of stuff. Like, we just learn to deal with how it feels to have that on your plate. Because I can still cry like easily when something triggers a memory like that, because it was such an important time in my life. And I would even go as far as to say that my time with the group had a hand in shaping me into the person I am today.
Right. Totally. It has to. Like, that life on the road, like, there's so many things you can take from that too, whether it be good or bad experiences to use in life after that. Totally changed me as a person. Like,
all the experience can be used positively. Don't eat my fucking watch.
Totally. Well, I had no idea that you didn't talk to anyone else or do other podcasts, man. So thank you so much for saying yes. So, like, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, it felt right. Yeah, no, I haven't. I definitely probably, I think I let a couple people on because I didn't want to say no. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. But then I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. It kind of just fizzled out. So I probably looked like a flake to one or two people. But I really didn't feel comfortable talking about it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. Like, there was definitely some self-worth stuff going on because, you know, I felt poorly about the past but, you know, over the last, you know, 4 years, and for me over the last 3 years, you know, I've had a reason to learn and play the music again, and I've gotten a chance to talk with and root the boys on in their endeavor, and they just prove time and time again that it's like an ever evolving machine. Like, nothing can get rid of BDM. Nothing. Like, no. Like, I would have to say they're probably the most resilient band ever.
Yeah.
Because and it's not even, you know, I mean, it's like, I don't think they could have handled that any other way. I really don't. And
I don't either. I think it was perfect.
I mean, nobody can, it's not like anybody could really get up and do what he was doing anyway. So it might as well be somebody that knows him better than anybody else.
Yeah, who's been around since the beginning, and you said, orchestrated so many things,
and like Brian even said, like he's seen Trevor perform live more than anyone else, on the planet. So who else is going to be able to copy mannerisms and keep the spirit alive better?
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. I don't see any other way forward.
I definitely didn't see Brandon's departure coming, but.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me.
I knew that they were going to get somebody capable. I just didn't know they were going to get somebody Wes Hotch capable.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny because I reached out to Ryan Knight when he wasn't in the band to take guitar lessons because I really love his playing. I've always loved his playing. I feel like he's so much of a different player from me that I could have really learned some stuff from him, but schedules didn't align. And then he rejoined the band, and he just it just didn't work out. But then I also reached out to fucking Wes Hotch to take lessons too. I just was too poor to afford his schedule at the time. But I really but I love Wes. I love Wes's playing because he's like a modern Dimebag and Vogue from Decapitated and his own thing that he's got going on. But he checks all the boxes for me as a guitar player. Like he's a really, really, really good guitar player. He's got a really, really insane pick attack, even when he plays faster. And then he loves Dimebag Darrell too, so you can hear it in his playing.
Can't go wrong there.
No, you really can't. So I didn't know that they knew him. It's not surprising. That was something I was very curious about. But yeah, I mean, that's talented musicians has never been a shortage in that group.
Yeah, and like you're saying earlier, like there's so many factors that have to come together. Like, do we want to be in a van or a bus with this person all the time?
Totally.
Or do they want to be here for the long haul and deal with all the bullshit? So sometimes you might find someone who's a better fit who maybe isn't as talented and they're the better choice. Like it's really tough. Yeah, there's so many boxes to check.
There really are. So yeah, I mean, I can imagine, like, I never really had anything to do with the hirings and the firings. I was just kind of like, I just kind of saw it happen. It wasn't really, I don't know. I mean, my opinion was asked. It wasn't like I was just completely like glazed over, but that wasn't my scope of work. I wasn't like, oh yeah, this person needs to go or this person needs to, that wasn't something that I did, but it was always a very careful process because dynamics and chemistry and, like you have this entity that you're building that people identify with. People start to like your group. You put out another record, they start to follow you. You put out another record, they become your fans. It's not something that happens overnight like in metal. Like metal fans are extremely fucking critical. They only like your first record and they want you to put that record. If I had to get a tattoo of things that death metal people say, it would be, I like their older stuff better.
Yeah.
Because that's just, and I think that's something that's very difficult for metal bands because the fans will hear a sound of yours that they like, but they won't necessarily care if you sway away from that sound. Like I feel like a lot of metal fans want you to just keep putting out the same record over and over again. So it's very difficult. You have this name you're trying to grow and this brand you're trying to build, but you're also playing like super technical music and have a very rigorous touring schedule. That's not for everybody. That's not something everybody can handle. I couldn't even handle it.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Understand.
It is a lot. I just, before I went into my complete and utter, I guess we'll call it culture shock, I was like, because we were on tour all the fucking time, like all the time. Like nobody ever said no to a tour that came through. It almost felt like it got to the point at one point I didn't even unpack when we got home. I just lived out of my suitcase at home because I was going to be gone within a few weeks anyway. Yeah, it was a very, very, very rigorous touring schedule. But the thought process behind it was if we don't get out there, we have to get out there and build a following. Now, of course, now, they don't need to go on tour nearly as many times.
That was the only way back then. Now with social media, you can blow up before you ever did a tour.
Exactly. I think Bulb was probably like the first person that blew up without a band in my, Periphery. Misha. I call him Bulb. That's so funny. I wonder if anybody knows that Misha used to go by Bulb back in the day. But before there was Periphery, there was him just basically like he bought an Axe Effects and he just made a bunch of Axe Effects like sound clip videos, but pushed his own music while advertising this $2,000 preamp that nobody at the time had access to.
Right. That's crazy.
And so he just got gigantic because the Axe Effects was like this revolutionary piece in modeling, because that was the first thing to come out that actually really sounded legit before there was the Kempers and the quad cortexes and all this other stuff that sounds great. Fractal's the OG. Fractal is the first one that came out and was like, okay, wow, like this is actually good enough to ditch my tube rig.
Yeah.
And I did.
I just
Everybody
got a quad
earlier.
was it earlier this year?
I'm a Fractal snob. I have a hard time getting them, but that's just because I got into Fractal. Like I got Fractal, and then I have an 11 rack. I love my 11 rack. I will never get rid of it. You can get them for $200.
Yeah, I have these two PV Ultras. The top one, or whatever one, bottom one, was the first one I got when I was 16. I fell in love with it.
I had an Ultra for a second.
Yeah, I love it. And when we were on tour once, I didn't realize that at some point it started becoming coveted by some people. And then the dude from Unearthed tried to buy it from me, and I said no. And then I bought a second one.
You used to be able to get them for like $300 or $400, and now people are charging like $800 and $900 for them. So
I paid $800 for the second one last year at Guitar Center. Just randomly found it.
They're the one thing I don't like about the amp is that there's basically like one good sound, and like when you find the sweet spot, you don't want to move from that because it's got that one sound that's really good for metal, and you find that. But then if you want to use it for anything else, you need the foot switch to access the secondary gain channel. So if one of the fucking million relays that's on the inside of that amp blows and you can't use your foot switch, then you're out of channel.
Yeah, and also there's a break in the sound when you hit the foot switch.
But thankfully, it's automatically on the high gain, so you don't really necessarily need the foot switch.
Yeah,
unless
I never
you want to
use clean channel.
Exactly.
Or anything.
If you don't want to use the clean channel and you don't need to use the yellow channel, the red channel is just default, so you're good to go.
Yeah, the clean doesn't sound very good anyway.
No, it's definitely was not an amp designed to have a clean channel.
No.
But I feel like a lot of those PV amps from back in the day were just copies of SLOs. Like, for instance, like the 5150 is just a copy of an SLO, basically. Yeah. Like a few things are a little bit different, but the preamps are identical. Same thing with the dual rectifier.
I tried to buy a Marshall because I didn't know any better, and I was 16. I was like, I need a half stack, and they're like, we're out of Marshalls, but we have this thing, and I was like, I guess I'll take it. And then I just ended up loving it because
they're great sounding.
Rarely play any clean stuff. So
PV's the underdog of the amp world, even though so many people use them. Like everybody wants to talk shit about PV, but honestly, like you can't go wrong with a 6505 or a 5150. A Triple X sounds good. The Ultra sounds good. Mine was like the logo was placed wrong, so it was like all the way to the left, even a little bit under the grill. So that bothered me too.
That one is weird. I don't know why one of them is off to the left.
I see that. I see that every once in a while, like because there was a second where I was like trying to like find another one that didn't have it, and I found a couple others because I only paid like $350 for that thing. So like sometimes Guitar Center employees don't know what they're buying in, and at the same time the person selling it doesn't know what they're selling in. So if you pay close enough attention to Guitar Center, you'll find plenty of mistakes. I won't say any more than that because I'm not trying to give away my secrets. But I have found 80s Ibanez's that were listed as just regular guitars. Really? I bought a 1987 all black RG 550 with a maple fretboard for $450 because it was just listed as an Ibanez RG.
Oh, holy shit! What would that go for?
Like $1,200.
Fuck.
Now, well, I mean, at the time, you probably could have still gotten $800 for it, but
yeah.
like now, like all these old, I'm seeing them for like minimum like 900,000, because if you want to get a J Craft Ibanez, that's $2,000. So you're not getting a used one for no $400 or $500 anymore.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I've definitely gotten some stuff that labeled incorrectly, and sometimes it's labeled incorrectly on purpose, and like you get the complete wrong thing. Like I ordered a microphone that actually turned out to be a blues driver, a Boss blues driver, but it had a picture of the blues driver, or no, it had a picture of the microphone, but it was listed as the blues driver, and I just kind of wanted one, and it was cheap enough. So I just rolled the dice, and it ended up being the blues driver. But like sometimes like I've done that where I'm just gonna roll the dice because I know I can return it if it's the wrong thing.
Right.
Like you got the Guitar Center safety net. One time I ordered a Roadster. It was listed as a Roadster cabinet for $700, a Roadster 412 Mesa cabinet, but it had a picture of a Roadster head.
Huh.
And so I spotted it. I just rolled the dice. Ended up being the head for $700. Unfortunately, it had been in a basement, like a wet basement, for way too long. The transformers were like completely rusted, and all the Tolex was coming off. So I ended up returning it, and they caught the error and ended up switching it, because what I didn't like, I went back online after I bought it, and then there was a cabinet, or there was a head listed with a picture of the cabinet for $1,500. So you got some people who really don't know what they're buying in and selling at Guitar Center. So
yeah, learn a new trick, folks.
To those watching, don't pay attention to Guitar Center, because leave those fucking deals for me.
Well, if you'll indulge me, I have a quick little rapid fire round of questions for you.
Let's do it.
Let you get going here. All right. Where do we go here? First guitar solo you ever learned?
Purple Haze.
Purple Haze, nice.
Jimi Hendrix was definitely the first guitar player who really got me into it.
Oh, incredible. Still to this day, I'm like, what the fuck when I listen to him.
Totally.
You have to introduce someone to the Black Dahlia Murder for the first time with one song. Which would you pick?
Well, it depends. If they listen to metal, it wouldn't be that hard, but anything I guess that's situational, because if they don't listen to metal, it also doesn't matter, because they won't know what the fuck they're listening to. But I would say Statutory Ape or Death Mask Divine would be my two favorite songs.
Yeah, Death Mask is one of my favorites. I remember today listening to it.
I feel like Death Mask would be a good intro song to BDM, because it's very melodic, it's quick, but it's also brutal at the same time. I feel like, and I remember Brian saying when he was writing Death Mask Divine that he wanted to try to write a song that kind of sounded a little bit like Elder Misanthropy, which it totally does.
Yeah, that middle melody is gorgeous. I love it.
Because, well, like in Elder Misanthropy, it's got the and then there's kind of like a there's also a part like similar to that in there it's also
like
yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like, because that song was kind of special, and actually going back, I remember we played at St. Andrews Hall, one of the first times that we played at St. Andrews Hall. My whole family was there, and Trevor brought my 89-year-old grandmother out onto the stage because it was her birthday, and he dedicated Elder Misanthropy to her.
Holy shit, that's awesome. What did she think?
She loved it, and there's a picture of her like totally ecstatic, and that song's about living forever, so I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, next, you have to play in one tuning forever. What would it be?
Fuck. Pass. The problem with that is that a good riff sounds good in any tuning. So let's just say E standard.
There you go. I didn't expect you to say that.
Yeah. Because you can't. So once I learned all the scales and modes, I used to have a guitar tuned to E standard so that I could jam along to my jam tracks. But now that I learned all the scales and modes, I can jam along to any jam track in any key with any guitar in any tuning.
Right.
Because
I'll have to learn how to do that one day.
Because it's just knowing where you're at. Okay, well, if you're playing along to a track in A and you're in D, you've tuned your guitar down a full step. Just move your hand up a full step. You just move your hand up two frets. and then so it's just it's just like knowing the compensation for changing the tuning. If you're playing in A and you tune down a half step, you're playing in G, but you're playing in the formation of A.
Right.
And once I learned all that kind of stuff, then I was like, okay, now I can like go back and revisit some of this metal and like finish some of the sentences that I couldn't finish back in the day.
That makes sense. Yeah. I remember when I just learned like my first, not just now, but like when I learned my first blues scale, like I was like, holy shit. And that was after like 15 years of playing guitar.
But
I just
those
made shit up.
Those aha moments can come at any time.
I was like, whoa, I can go all the way up and down. Like, this is crazy. All right. Weirdest fan interaction you've ever had?
This is a good one. So we play, this was either in 04 or 05. We played at this, I can't remember, somewhere in Omaha, Nebraska. This was like before BDM was more well known, so I think there was not very many people at the show. But even before BDM got really well known, we still had like some really die-hard fans that were like really, really into the band. Even before we had like, a following like that could keep you away from a job in the meantime. There was this guy, a blind guy, who came to our show in Nebraska. I want to say it was the first time we had ever played in Nebraska. And he brought a bass drop with him, and he asked us if he could do the bass drop in, oh my fuck, I'm not going to remember the song name now. I just know all the song names by numbers. So to me, it's song 7. It's, fuck. All right, hang on. Damn it. It's, not Closed Casket Requiem. It is. It's Closed Casket Requiem. You can't hear it in the recording because it just didn't come through. But I don't know how. He must have heard it maybe because his other senses were heightened because he couldn't see.
Right. I was going to say that. Yeah.
I can't hear it when I listen to it, but there is a bass drop in the da da na da na, because that part actually used to be just 2 guitar parts. But it ended up being called the My Dying Bride part because we broke it up into 4 guitar parts. And there's a bass drop right at the beginning of that. And I remember like this blind guy came to the show in Nebraska, and he was like, can I do the bass drop? And we're like, hell yeah, of course you can. He blasted on this bass drop the whole fucking song, like boom, boom, boom. There was a bass drop every measure. And we just let him do his thing. We just let him have a good old time. Yeah. He was just playing on that thing like a fucking like Snoopy's tuning pitchfork in his mouth, like boing, 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 boing. And I'll remember that to this day. To this day, I will. That will always be like, to me, just like the funniest, oddest fan interaction I ever had.
That is amazing. Like, he will remember that forever.
Totally.
Like, you made his year.
Totally. We were just like, hell yeah, get on up here and do this thing. But yeah, we thought he was just going to press it once, and he pressed it like no less than 150 times.
Yeah, can I do the bass drop?
Yeah. But it was like, we were like, pop, 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 go. And he's like, doom, doom, doom. He just had this thing in his hand, just setting off a bass drop.
That's amazing. That's a great fucking story.
I'm really happy I was able to think of that on the spot too, because I actually, like, before we got together to chat like this, I was thinking of like all this stuff to talk about, and like I'm not going to remember a fucking thing once it gets time to go. So I'm just going to go with it and just talk about whatever comes up.
Yeah, I always try to prepare enough. Like, I never want it to be like a structured interview, but I'll write down a bunch of shit, and then as soon as you hit go, it's just like it's all over the place and it doesn't matter anyway.
I did look up a few things to make sure I wasn't totally talking out of my ass, like a couple of dates of things in case like it ended up coming, but I don't remember anything that I looked up. So
yeah. All right. Go to gas station snack on tour.
Oh fuck. What were those? There was this thing that I used to get at Sheetz all the time. The made to order.
MTOs, yeah.
Or actually, no, it wasn't. It was like some kind of pizza pocket something. I can't remember. We used to always eat that and Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Actually, that's another funny tour story. I actually like got so addicted to Flaming Hot Cheetos that I was eating them like all the time. And I remember one time I took a shit and it was the same color as the Flaming Hot Cheetos, and I was like really concerned. And so I stopped eating them altogether. But yes, I probably had consumed enough Red 40 to change the color of my waist.
Yeah, just radioactive red.
Yeah. So yeah, I like I definitely ate like an absurd amount of flaming hot Cheetos on tour, and beef jerky because I thought it was healthy.
I'll always grab a bag of beef jerky. Our last little weekend run last summer, what was the brand I got? I forgot, but I found a new brand that was really good. The spicy version is actually spicy for once. Usually they say spicy and they're not.
Yeah, it's funny going full circle now that I have kids. I'm like super health conscious because I got to make sure that like when I'm in my 60s, I can still play with them and like, you know, do stuff with them. Like I'm like super health conscious about everything I put in my body now because of my kids.
Right. Totally. That'll change your whole perspective.
That was not the case growing up though.
No. Especially on the road when you had no money. It was just like we're stopping at gas stations and rest stops. It's just grab whatever.
Well, yeah, and my mom like didn't really like govern what I was able to eat growing up, so I would just eat like whole. Like I was like an overweight, long, curly-haired kid with bifocals, and then to make matters worse, like I was into like Hot Topic and White Zombie and stuff. So I used to wear those fucking 60-inch Jenko pants.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was like the easiest, biggest target to get made fun of and bullied at school. Like I couldn't have made it any easier for these motherfuckers to make fun of me because it was like poofy ass hair, thick ass glasses, and then clothes that were like 3 times too big for me.
Well, I'd say it turned out pretty good since you ended up in one of the coolest metal bands playing Ozzfest. So
I did have one interaction where my biggest bully was working at a gas station that I frequented, and when I noticed it was him, like it was like this was like after high school and I was like already on tour. I think this was in like 2006 or something like that. I graduated in 01. And I saw him at the gas station, and he was like the biggest bully ever. He used to like hit me in the back of the head and like take stuff from me and like steal stuff out of my lunch and like just wanted me to fight him. Like he was probably trying to get me to fight him. But I was super passive, super passive. I did not fight him. And he's like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, my band's getting ready to go to Germany." And you know, it was a pretty awesome moment for me because you know, and I'm like, "So what are you up to?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just working." I was like, "Okay, well, you know, have a good one, dude."
Yeah. The best revenge is living well.
Yeah, and so I didn't gloat or stay to talk or anything, but that was kind of a little victory for me because yeah, high school was miserable for me. I got fucking tormented.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
he sounded like your typical movie bully.
He was, and I tried to please him too. I was like, dude, I got like these snacks at home I'll bring for you. I was such a pleaser. I was like trying to like give him stuff. I was like trying to win him over with kindness, but he was such a dick.
Well, I'd say you showed him.
Maybe.
All right, Nirvana or Alice in Chains?
Oh, fuck. Well, so that's really tough, but I'd have to say Nirvana, just because even though Alice in Chains is technically way more talented and put out way more coherent riffs,
yeah,
I just kind of identify a little bit more with Nirvana. And of course, like the super fucking crazy, like murder-suicide story, like of Kurt, like it's like, did he commit suicide? Was he murdered? Like, even though, don't get me fucking started. Like, I spent a really, really long time, I
still don't know what I think.
If the person you hired to be an investigator starts to think that he wasn't murdered or that he was murdered, like literally the person you're paying to make you look good is like, sorry, I'm going to keep working now that you're not paying me because I think that there's some shit you're not telling me.
Right. Yeah,
and I mean,
tells you something.
Like Hole is like one of the worst bands to ever exist, and like there's even videos of her saying like conversations of her saying like, "Oh yeah, Kurt turned down Lollapalooza for $10 million. Like Hole could have played that." It's like, no, you couldn't have. Nobody likes your stupid fucking band. No,
nobody wanted to see Hole.
Nobody looks back and says, "Oh, Hole was a great band." Like, "Oh, remember that one fucking song?" Like, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had one song.
I can't remember what it's called. Had that one song like that's in the toilet right now.
But I would agree, Nirvana also for me, because I appreciate the punk rock sloppiness of it, because I am not a perfect guitar player myself.
He was a lazy savant. Like he literally was like, he's like, I don't like. They're like, well, do you want to die? And he's like, no, I was just like writing these lyrics like the day before we recorded because I'm fucking lazy.
Yeah.
Like,
and people worship them,
and people were, and like even like people that hung out with him before he died, they're like, yeah, he was really excited about his kid. Like, that's totally the type of person that's going to fucking put it, like, especially someone who reached the level of fame he did. Like, there's too much ish. There's too much ish. I don't want to.
Killing yourself with a shotgun that way just like doesn't really make sense.
And there's no, like, it just seemed like Courtney Love was like, this is what happened. And the cops were like, yep, that's what happened. We're cool with it. There's no crime scene photos, like, other than like his arm, like where you can kind of see his watch. Like his ID was left out. So you could see who it was. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want this to turn into a conspiracy theorist thing at the end. Like,
we'll do another episode like that because I love all that shit.
Yeah, me too. But and serial killers. But I because probably a little bit, if I'm being honest, a little bit because of the conspiracy, and a lot because, like, growing up, I thought Nirvana was like the worst thing ever. I was like, this is so lame, like so lame. This does not do anything for me. But going back, like, I really appreciate like the way the riffs were put together. Like, my wife loves Alice in Chains, so I think like she'll probably be sad to hear that I didn't say Alice in Chains. And I even said the other day, like, I don't dislike Alice in Chains, but I'm not going to be like, hey, let's listen to some Alice in Chains.
Yeah, it makes me depressed when I hear it.
A little bit.
I was never a fan of them. Like, I respect the writing and the guitar, but like it didn't do anything for me. Now that I'm older, I've started to like it.
Oh yeah, me too. And I even did a couple covers with my wife with Alice in Chains riffs. I know that all the BDM guys loved Alice in Chains. They probably tell me I'm a stupid asshole for saying that. But they also told me I was stupid for like liking Gwar, because they were like, I remember when I joined the band, like, I loved Gwar, like loved it. But they were like, oh, because you love going to the live shows, right? And I'm like, no, I never saw him live. I just love the music. And they're like, what? They were like blown away, like that I loved Gwar because of the music and not because of their, like, I'm like, I know, I didn't even know what they were about. I didn't know that they were like spraying the crowd with like blood and cum synthetic. Like it just like it was, that was kind of like really funny for me. And then getting on the same label as them, like, and then getting to play with them and hang out with Dave Brockie, like, that was just so cool for me. I fucking love Gwar.
No, that's awesome. I could never do the music. I never liked it. I didn't get it.
They didn't like it.
Yeah, the live show was
They
fun.
were not. And same thing with Annihilator. Like the album Set the World on Fire. Like, I used to brutalize them with that album. Like, night jumps the queen, if you know what I mean. Anticipation of the final scene. It's about chess, dude. It's a fucking song about chess. And I'm in the front seat doing all of the driving, rocking like Bats in the Belfry and Knights Jump the Queen from like 1991. They probably hated it, but I didn't give a fuck.
I'm sure I'll get shit from Nick because he likes Alice in Chains. And just last year, I was just saying, I don't like them. It doesn't do anything for me. And then it's like, I don't know if it's social media or whatever, but I'm like, I hear it all the time now. See, like memes are using it and stuff.
They
and then, like,
sound really good. They have a really good sound. He was like using like Bogner's and stuff back in the day when like nobody else was using that shit. And like,
Wood was the song that did it for me. I love that chorus. It's
that's a great song. I'm not going to lie, they have great songs. Like, as a 41-year-old now, I can appreciate good songs just for being good songs, even if it's not something I'm going to put on. Because honestly, I find like when I go to listen to music, it's usually because I'm like trying to like wind down or like I'm trying to like chill. So it's either like something like instrumental or really fucking brutal. Right. Because I find that like a lot of that heavy music, like, you know, I take care of my mom, and deal with all her crap. My 81-year-old mom, like, I'm basically her caregiver, and, you know, and I got 2 kids. We don't get any help with that. And I need to fucking chill. Like, I don't have a lot of time to like wind down because, you know, we don't have any relatives that live here. So the only help we get with our kids is what we pay for. We haven't even had a babysitter in like 7 months. I'm ashamed to say.
Wow.
But dude, people will love to say that they're going to watch your 2 kids right until you actually ask them to do it. And then they got other shit going on.
Like, oh, actually.
Didn't get to go see Cannibal Corpse in Meshuggah because our babysitter bailed on us night before. No. Was it that? Yeah. No, we didn't even try to go to Cannibal Corpse in Meshuggah because babysitter bailed right away. There was another. We had guest list passes to Korn when they came through here.
Shit.
And our babysitter bailed like 4 hours before the show.
No.
And like, I mean, thankfully we didn't pay for it, but dude, fucking guest list to go see Korn. Like, I might have been able to see some of the gear on the side of the stage. Like, Like
yeah.
that stuff,
Korn
I
will
love.
Always be one of my favorites. Like
I
they
thought
were a
they
huge
were
influence to 16-year-old me.
So I thought they were lame as fuck growing up because I was listening to hair metal and all that stuff. And I'm like, what is this weird fucking new metal shit? Slipknot. I love it now, but I was like, nope, I was not into it. But yeah, my wife is part of this bass player group, Bass Players United. And she and the bass player from Korn follow each other on Instagram. I think his name's Ra D.
Yeah. Raw Diaz.
He's sick. And, somebody through the group like got a hold of him and got us on the list, but she reached out to him immediately and was like, you know, we can't make it, we got bailed on, so if you want to use those guest list spots for somebody else, and you know, you got to do the right thing. You don't want to tell someone a minute before the show, and then especially like a group like Korn, they probably have a guest list as long as a fucking roll of toilet paper.
Oh yeah, sure.
So he was appreciative that we told him in advance. But yeah, we don't get to go to shows, we don't get to do any cool stuff because we have a babysitter network of failures.
Fuck. That sucks.
and then trying to meet someone and then trying to meet someone that you trust to watch your little ones, like getting home and being like, hey, did my 2-year-old eat? Well, we asked her if she wanted to eat dinner. And it's like, you asked my 2-year-old if they wanted to eat dinner? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
yeah, if.
And then here's $100 for watching my kids.
Brutal.
Yeah. This has been a nice treat, getting asked to do some BDM stuff and getting to do some music with some bands and stuff, because I've been in a slump a little bit. Like I quit my job at Rocket Mortgage because we don't have any help with our family, and my wife has a little bit of some health issues that she's dealing with, you know, and so I made the decision to buy and sell gear and make it work at home so I can be here and help with the family, because I'd rather figure it out from month to month and pay my bills by you know, I mean, it can be stressful at times, but not as stressful as it was when I had to spend 40 hours away from my little princess. I can't fucking do it. I can't do it. I will do whatever I have to do. I will go down to one guitar again if I have to, because so I've just been like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to get myself out there. I'm going to play music with anyone that wants to play music with me. I'm going to go on the podcasts and talk to the people, because I want to make it. I want to work from home, doing music, doing whatever, and be with my little ones, because the thought of being away from them throughout the day physically pains me. I have been with them every single day, except my daughter when she was really young. I was still she was born in 2022, right when like kind of like all the COVID home mandates were ending. So when I started working at Rocket Mortgage, I got a job working at home. It was fucking glorious. I was making $24 an hour to just sit there and tell people to turn their sound back on. And but then that quickly changed when I had to start driving to downtown Detroit 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And commuting to downtown Detroit is really fucking stressful. Like the lane markers are merely suggestions. It's just, and then there's the traffic, and then parking 10 blocks away from my office, and it just like, and then, you know, like, you know, $24 an hour sounds great for one person, but when you're a family of 3 and you're the only income, adding a $400 a month gas bill just didn't. And so I just kind of made the decision, well, you know what? I've got all this gear. Like, I'm going to start buying. I'm going to use it to buy and sell gear, and I'm just going to come home and we're going to try to do something on social media and become content creators, because to me, it's possible if you have content that's worthwhile. Like, there's people who make fucking $100,000 eating fucking sloppy sounds in front of a camera. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do it playing my fucking guitar?
Yeah.
And so
I've been freelancing for years.
And so
I got lucky.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying I'm getting a lot more serious about putting myself out there than I was in the past. More so because of my kids, really, because it's like, I don't want to be away from them. So I want to try to use what I'm good at to be with them. And then
smart, dude.
And to try to create a life. You know, unfortunately, I've said goodbye to a lot of very nice pieces of gear. But once I'm making money doing something I like, or once I figure that out, I'll reacquire those things if I need them. They're merely things. What's more important is being with my little turds. I got to have those guys. Like, they're the most important things that I want to kill on a daily basis in the planet. I love their freaking faces, their smiles. Being a daddy's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like the right plan. I've been freelancing since probably 2011, working from home. But I got lucky to get started because I was doing sales for like a summer music camp, and I would go to work every day. And I was like on the headset calling parents that were like from previous years and like getting them to re-sign up their kids. And I would get a commission, an hourly rate. And all of a sudden, the guy he's like, "Come outside, I got to talk to you." And I was like, "Uh-oh, what do I do?" And he's like, "I need you to really kill it for the next like 3 months this summer. I'll give you like a bigger commission or whatever." But he didn't really explain why. And I was like, okay. And I found out later he was selling the company, so he wanted the numbers to look really good. So he sold it to it.
What a fucking turd.
Yeah, I mean, he did give me a really great like what do you call it when you let someone go? But like a
severance,
severance pay. And the company he sold it to kept me on, but they were based in Georgia.
But they were deceiving you, keeping you on a company that you thought was going to keep going. Like, they didn't tell you because they knew you would have pieced, knowing that you had to find another job eventually.
But they did keep me on, and he paid me the severance anyway, and then I got to work from home for them. So that's how I got my foot in the door working from home. So I started freelancing.
That's the only way to do it.
It really is. So I was like, I know eventually this will end. I need to like start some other things on the side so I can keep this going. So I did that. And then this is part of it too. Like I'm doing the same thing you are. I started my YouTube channel last year, started the podcast, and I was like, I want to get myself out there. And this can become a business over time. I've
totally
been really consistent.
I got to be better about it though, because I'm still like last night I got woken up at 6 a.m. and I was up until 7 a.m. because my daughter needed her daddy. And I didn't even get to sleep until 3 a.m. because the only time I can be John is during the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. Right. And, because so it's hard to choose between free time and sleep. I always choose free time, like almost always.
Well, you're a smart and talented dude. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
And I suffer because of it. But yes, I plan to figure something out. I'm going to be going forward. I'm going to be more vigilant about collaborating with folks and getting my name out there, and maybe acquiring some endorsements once I get a bigger following. Because right now, like the people who are following me, I'm kind of more just a trading card. I feel like, because like I'm not really like there's really no reason that I should have almost 4,000 followers, like other than the fact that I used to be in a band that's still well known. You know what I mean? Like if I was just some dude, I'd probably just have like a couple hundred followers because I don't post regularly. I'm not like to have a following on social media. You have to be involved in social media, and I'm really bad about that. So it's
hard too because you don't want to just post crap. You know, like just posting to post. So you're like, if I'm going to post, I want it to be good, but then you can't think about it too much. You just got to keep pumping out.
Right,
content.
But then if you try to think about is it good or not, then you'll never post anything.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, my accounts were dead until like last year. I didn't really post at all, and so like I had 600 followers just from friends or something. So I got up to like 1,800 now just from being active the last.
Because people are bored and everybody fucking doom scrolls, so you have to do something at least a little interesting to make the doom scrolling stop. Like, oh, okay, I found this guy, and also I feel like it's hard to get into people's algorithms because. You gotta
everyone's fighting each other.
So it's social media ruined everything, but then it ruined everything, but then it also helped a lot of things because like you couldn't do as many things at home as you can now. Like there weren't as many opportunities to be at home as there are now, even though everybody is now got their face in their phones 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you got to take the bad with the good.
I looked at my phone activity recently. If you go into your settings on your phone, you can look at how much you use your phone.
It's not good.
Well, I was on Instagram. Like it said that I'm just gonna be transparent and just air my fucking dirty bullshit. It's got like there was one day where I was like on my phone like 6 hours, and then my average for the week was like 6 or 7 hours a day that I was spending on my phone, and I was like, fuck, like.
Yeah, you don't even know how you do it.
And
you don't, that's a whole night's sleep.
You don't even realize, and I don't even realize how I'm doing it. And so, like, having that's been really helpful because I'm like, no, I'm putting my fucking phone down. Like, I'm going to go and, because a lot of times, like, like my kids will start entertaining themselves for a second, and then I'll get caught up doom scrolling because I didn't fucking sleep very well, and I don't have the mental capacity to do anything worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about switching over to mushroom coffee.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a firm believer that intermittent fasting is the key to immortality. If you want to live longer,
benefits.
If you want to live longer, get your body into autophagy. I won't go into it any further than that because you try to tell someone that eats McDonald's that it's killing them, and they're going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
It is good
because the food makes them angry inside. But I watched somebody do an experiment where they poured 1,500-degree silver over a McDonald's hamburger, and it did not just go right through the burger. It bounced off the fucking bun and caught fire. It's not even food. It's not food.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Plastic.
It's not even food. And then there was another woman that had a McDonald's hamburger, just a fucking double cheeseburger from 1996 that still hasn't started growing mold on it.
Oh, I've heard about that.
But yet people are still insane. Well, I'm eating it and everything's fine. Meanwhile, their insides looks like a fucking apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah, have it once in a while, folks.
But yeah, let's.
Sorry. Next question. Was, you have to get rid of all your pedals and you can only keep one. What would you choose?
Well, that's really easy because I buy a ton of pedals thinking I'm going to use them, and the only one I end up using is a fucking tube screamer or some kind of variation of a tube screamer. See ya.
Fair enough. I think mine would be a delay pedal because I like my amp's tone.
Oh yeah, fuck no, but I got to have a delay pedal too because then how do I cover up my mistakes when I'm soloing? Shit.
There you go.
All right. Well, that's a tough call. Well, so it's a tough call for me because I like to play amps that need a boost. I like the way an amp sounds with a non-tube element before the tubes. I've never found a tube gain that did everything I wanted it to do. And even some of these amps, like I had a PRS Archon 100, totally does metal on its own, but there's something in the characteristic of the gain when the amp can do the gain that I want right out of the box that I just don't like. I like to have a amp tone where if I turn the boost off, I could still play rock and roll, but when I turn the boost on, it's death metal.
Gotcha.
So that's cool. Just how that's just me. So like when I would turn the boost off, like I could play like indie music on my Mesa Boogie when I was touring with BDM because I had the gain at like 11:30 a.m. and the mids were at like 2 p.m. and the treble was at 2 p.m. and then I just had a boost on in front and I would just turn like the gain just to taste like right at the verge of breakup and then slam the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So I think I would just have to get better at playing and still go for the tube screamer.
There you go. All right, last question. So I started a Riff Tacos official Spotify playlist, and I'm asking every guest to contribute one song to it, whatever you want, any genre, any song that meant something to you, whatever you want to do.
Okay. It's gonna be some Gates of Ishtar. Let me just find the song name because I don't fucking remember it. Do you know that band?
I know the name, but never listened to them.
It's another band that's from like the late 90s, early 2000s. They're just a melodic death metal band from Sweden or somewhere over in Europe. But they're one of the bands that I really, really liked when I first started getting into that music. So it's going to be probably a Blood Red Path, but let me just get in. Okay, so it's friggin' hell. It's right here. I think it's in IN. I don't. You know what? Instead of butchering it, I'm just gonna get that in there. Gates Ishtar, Blood Red Path, INANNA. So Inanna. I think that's the one. It starts out with like a It starts out with like a drum fill that has a flanger pedal on it.
It's Gates of Ishtar. Sick. I will add that in there.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Totally.
Again, had no idea you weren't talking about BDM or doing podcasts, so I appreciate that even more.
Well, I wasn't vehemently not doing it. I just, I didn't feel comfortable doing it at the time, just personally, on a personal level. And right. I have over the last couple of years have, I hate to say it, because of, not only because of tragedy, but because of just kind of realizing, things that have happened, in the past that maybe I didn't feel so great about. Just the last couple of years have made me feel a lot closer to the music in more than one way. And so,
totally.
I've always had this amount of positive stuff to talk about. It's just that maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind to really talk about it, or I felt like maybe nobody wanted to hear anything that I had to say. But now I'm old enough now where I don't care if anybody wants to hear what I have to say. So there, you know,
tell your story.
You know, I feel like life is at least 20% fuck them. Otherwise, you're not living right.
Agreed. Absolutely.
You gotta have at least a little for you. So
well, so is there anything else you'd like to tell people about anything you have coming up or releasing music? I know you said the Dead Squad
I mentioned
band,
the
right?
Dead Squad. I don't have anything else going on currently, but I'm definitely trying to. I've been playing a shit ton, so I want to get out there and do it with people. Absolutely.
Well, everybody follow John on Instagram. This is John_Kempainen. Is that, am I saying it right? Kempainen?
You're not, but you can say it that way. It's actually, that's the correct Finnish pronunciation. I learned that from Children of Bodom. Kempainen is how they pronounce it, but I'm, you know, I don't have any, I don't know any Finnish or anything, so it's just Kempainen. But it was close.
Kempainen.
I've never heard anybody say Kempainen before. And it's mostly just companion or Kempainen or campaign.
I Googled it before because I wanted to be sure. So I was like, this is the traditional way to say it. I'm like, all right, I'll go with that.
I'm not one of those people who cares. Like, if I know you're talking to me, that's good enough.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, again, thanks for having me, and I'm sure we'll talk soon or do something in the future again. So stay in touch, bro.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, please remember, as always, hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Apple, and please leave a rating. Definitely helps me out a lot. And we'll see everybody on the next one.
See you guys.